Not one more minute can go by in anyone's life without us addressing how good Iman Shumpert has been on Dancing with the Stars. I can't believe it's taken us this long to get to it. I don't know if Billy, amid all of his reality television watching, is doing any watching of Dancing with the Stars. So
I am not.
So nothing. Iman Shumpert, have you seen any of this? Because what he did, I guess it's last night. Last night is when I saw it.
No, I think it was from earlier in the week, but it's been popping. He's had a couple of performances that have gone viral on Twitter. I'm not really sure who else is in the cast. I think The Miz, a wrestler and former guest of Mystery Crate, is on the cast, but Iman Shumpert is apparently running away with this competition. From the videos I've seen, he's incredible.
Best athlete I've ever seen doing it by leaps and bounds. And I think his wife is a choreographer, and he's famous for reasons that extend outside of basketball. I think he's more famous, I think I have this right, as a reality television star than he is as a basketball player. But his dancing is extraordinary, Stugotz, and his partner is so light and he is so large that he can physically pick her up very easily without any problem, and it makes the dancing very fluid.
He got it looks like he got a perfect score. LeBron James tweeted about him saying it's as good as he's seen an athlete dance ever. Like, I didn't know Iman Shumpert could cut a rug.
LeBron does a lot of watching athletes dance, and he's the qualified one to tell us who the best athlete dancer ever is.
Cutting of a rug. I want to examine this phrase. I want to examine who says it, when it's said, the era that someone has said about the cutting of a rug. Is that someone dancing so well that the rug is cut by the way that person's feet move?
Or origin comes from the 1920s and 30s when couples would dance the jitterbug.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Have you ever used the phrase to cut a rug?
The jitterbug was a vigorous dance that, when done continuously by many couples in one area, it would make the carpet appear as if it were cut or gashed.
That is not true at all.
You were around in the 20s?
Come on.
No,
my bad.
I'm maintaining
my bad. You're
that
a jitterbug expert.
Ask LeBron.
Let's ask LeBron.
I'm maintaining that no one in the 20s was doing the jitterbug so well that it looks like carpets and rugs were being cut. I'm just saying it with the skepticism of having seen people dance and knowing what little I know about the jitterbug. I just don't believe that a rug, that the visual of a rug being cut is the fury with which they were dancing in the 1920s.
I mean, it's the literal definition of cut a rug, Dan. I don't know what else you want. I will keep searching for an answer that you're okay with.
How many things in his life do you think LeBron thinks he's an expert on?
All
and
of
people
them.
around him
Everything.
are like, yeah,
All
yeah,
of them.
that's right.
All of
yeah.
them.
Bunch of yes men. Yeah.
All of them,
Mhm.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wine,
Yeah.
Zero
yeah.
Dark 30,
Do you think
Godfather.
Do you think he surrounds himself with anybody that says, "Nah, you're wrong about this one, Bron"?
Well, oddly enough, the creator of Squid Game has called out LeBron because LeBron was criticizing the ending to Netflix's most popular show at the moment, and the director, according to The Guardian, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly, Don Hyuk writes, "Have you seen Space Jam 2?" Is what his. Oh, Billy, you like that one? Are you laughing?
It's funny. I haven't seen it, but it's a
snap.
funny retort.
LeBron James is cool and can say what he wants. I respect that. I'm very thankful he watched the whole series, but I wouldn't change my ending. That's my ending. If he has his own ending that would satisfy him, maybe he can make his own sequel. I'll check it out and maybe send him a message saying, I like your whole show except the ending.
I feel like the people around LeBron have like scrubbed that from everywhere. Like whatever the new modern day is, get all the newspapers in this area so he doesn't see the news. They did that with that.
You think that he's got what Phil Jackson would say is a posse of social media scrubbers?
I would not have put it that way, no.
He's got a cousin, Greg, that's in charge of media monitoring.
Have you watched that show, by the way?
Succession?
No. What was the first one LeBron was commenting on?
Oh, my God.
Squid Games? Yeah, is it any good?
It's not games. It's just Squid
singular.
Games.
All right.
Game.
Is it good?
I mean, it's a monster hit. I've seen the first 2 episodes.
I know it's a monster hit. I'm asking you guys because I respect your opinions. If you've watched it, does anyone think it's good?
10
haven't-
Days says it's good.
I haven't seen it
Okay.
yet because I'm too scared. It looks scary.
The premise is a game show stakes for your life is what the premise is. So that
I mean,
is
for your life sounds like something I would like.
Yeah, it's like The Running Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Win or go home. Yeah.
Look at an eager Roy making
I was about
an
to say it. I
appearance.
was about to bring it up.
It's-
Mike beat me to it.
It's like The Running Man, I believe the 1986 classic, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, Richard Dawson.
Although it wasn't remade, right? No, Total Recall was the one of the Schwarzenegger vehicles that was.
It was 87
but
for Running Man.
Yes, so Richard Dawson and the Running Man were well ahead of their time. Hey, get back to me, Squid Game, when you do something that wasn't done 40 years ago by Richard Dawson and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Game show stakes for your life. I was confused because I checked in on it just because of the word of mouth, and I was under the impression when I got to it that it was just a game show. And I'm like, there's a popular Netflix game show, and then it was explained to me it's a game show for your life. And I'm like, it's not real, is it? Because in 2021, I can't totally.
We can't get away with that.
You think you can't get away with that in 2021? But I was just making sure.
In
We'll
2021.
sign a waiver.
No, there are Russian reality shows that take part in the Siberian woods in the dead of winter, and it's basically who survives.
That's Survivor, though. I mean,
No,
Nah.
it's not Survivor.
Survivor's falling off.
okay.
I'm telling you though that when I tuned in, I was confused because I was looking for a game show and it was clearly a movie. So I that's where I gave up on it right there in my
mini
confusion.
series. It's a series, not a movie.
Okay,
Before the kids get in your menchies.
okay. I put it on the poll.
Menchies.
Guillermo at Levitard Show. Are you always made deeply uncomfortable when the kids get in your menchies? Also put it on the poll at Levitard Show. Is there any reason on earth to shorten mentions to menchies?
Of course.
Jessica wasn't here with us yesterday. She was off, but we enraged her. And go ahead and have at it.
Oh my, you guys don't know anything about Pittsburgh. It was very frustrating to listen to. I just sounded like I was from Minnesota for like 2 minutes. Do you guys hear that? Oh my God. Okay. But Pittsburgh is not in the Northeast and it's not in the Midwest. It's its own distinct region, part of Western Pennsylvania. If you tell someone from Pittsburgh they're in the Midwest, they will laugh at you. It was very frustrating to listen to.
Okay, but it's not in the Northeast, which was the crux of the debate.
No, I mean it's in the Eastern time zone.
So what do they say? Like, if you're
Well-
from Pittsburgh, what do they say?
Is Rust Belt something they say?
Rust Belt is more of like a socio-economic region than a geographic region, though.
Okay.
But I asked people from Pittsburgh. I asked my mom. I asked some of my friends. I was like, what do you consider Pittsburgh? The most common answer, first of all, everyone said something different. No one said Northeast
Okay, so
or
we're
Midwest.
not. So you're
But-
getting enraged and you're saying that you're vomiting on your devices and stuff, and yet you asked your family and people from Pittsburgh, and they're like, "We don't know where we're
Well,
from."
they all said it's definitely not Midwest and it's definitely not Northeast.
Okay, you've told us what it's not. What is it? Because
Tell
it's
us
not
what it
Rust
is.
Belt either.
My mom said Appalachia. My cousin said Appalachia feels spot on. I said, what about like Ohio River Valley? She said no, because people from Pittsburgh will think you're confusing them with Ohio, and people in Pittsburgh hate the state of Ohio, like blood feud there. And then my other friend said Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's in Pittsburgh, which I think is actually probably the most accurate.
Put that on the poll, Guillermo. Is Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh?
And then my other friend said Pittsburgh is too gritty to be in the Midwest, which I took offense to.
Well, but this is happening. These Pittsburgh people seem to be real offended by where we put them regionally while not knowing where we should put them regionally. Like, what is happening there?
That's
right.
correct.
You tell us. I mean,
what-
jeez.
okay, you want to tell us what it is, fine, but all you're doing is telling us what it's not.
I think what it is Western Pennsylvania. Western Pennsylvania's got a little blend of everything. It's like the North Appalachian Mountains.
But you don't do like regions of the country. Here's the Northwest. Here's the Midwest.
And here's
the
Western-
and here's
Southeast.
Western.
Yeah.
Right.
And
With
Western-
Pittsburgh, you do, Dan. It's a very distinct region because it has the sensibilities of the Midwest, but it's not the Midwest. It's not flat like the Midwest. It's not farmland like the Midwest. It's very hilly, mountainous region. The dialect is even its own dialect. Pittsburghese is completely different than how people in Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois sound. It's also not Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Philadelphia would be the East Coast. Completely different vibes. Like night and day.
Did we
cities.
get it wrong? What did we get wrong that made you say that you wanted to vomit on your devices?
Well, because none of you said what I just said, and none of you texted my mom to
Why
see what
would
her
we?
answer
Jesus.
was.
You haven't
Why
really
didn't you
said
text your
anything.
mom,
I mean,
Dan?
no one
For
knows
the
what
most
you
part,
said.
We
I mean,
we kind of nailed what it wasn't, and we okay. But Miami's a lot like Pittsburgh too, because if someone referred to Miami as the South, we'd all be like, "We're not the South. We're
We
barely
wouldn't?
Florida."
So then,
we would say southeast, no?
No. I
well,
would
Stugotz
never.
isn't. He's not in Miami.
No.
You're
Yeah,
basically
right.
in
You're in
Georgia.
Duval.
That's
Yeah.
You're in the South.
It's a good point.
You
We're in
guys,
the dirty, though.
you guys are okay with LeBron deciding where Pittsburgh is, and then we can move on.
Sure.
Perhaps, but he's from Ohio, so he's biased.
Speaking of Pittsburgh, Stugotz,
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin made an appearance in the news yesterday
Yeah.
Splash.
with a hard no on USC. He was asked about USC rumors.
The hardest of no's. That's how you squash a story, my man.
Splash.
Why is the my man in there?
I don't know. It just felt like it needed a my man. I think it's the first time I've ever said my man to you.
It was directed at me.
Yes,
all right.
yes.
This was the quote from Mike Tomlin. Hey, guys, I don't have time for that speculation. There's so little time that Mike Tomlin has for so many different things. He loves saying, I don't have time for this.
When you're defending every blade of grass, Dan, you don't really have time. I mean,
He doesn't have time to blink.
I don't have time for that speculation. I mean, that's a joke to me. I got one of the best jobs in all of professional sport. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? And that will be the last time I will address it, not only today, but moving forward. Never say never, but never, okay? There's not a
I believe him when he says
there's
that.
The origin of why he's responding to rumors is because Carson Palmer joined the Dan Patrick Show and mentioned Tomlin's name and a bunch of USC candidates.
And so because Carson Palmer did that, it made news, and the question was fair, and his response was fantastic.
He continues, there's not a booster with a big enough check. Anyone asking Sean Payton about that? Anyone asking Andy Reid about that?
It's not about leaving, though, Dan. This is all posturing for an agent. It's great whenever a coach has his name thrown out there associated with rumors. Even if it's on a message board, if you force a local beat writer to ask you about a position, you are negotiating publicly. Mike Stoops was asked about the Miami job. Okay. And now it makes news at Mike Stoops' address. Is it Mike or Mark? Either way.
I think
Mark
it's
Stoops.
Mike.
No, I think it's Mark.
The coach of Kentucky is Mark Stoops.
Yeah, text your mom.
There's probably a Mike too.
Ask
I'll text
LeBron.
LeBron.
No, there's
Ask
definitely a
LeBron.
Mike Stoops.
There is a Mike Stoops.
There are a lot
yeah.
of Stoopses out there. They're all over
Yeah.
the place.
But it's all posturing. It's all negotiating. I think James Franklin released Trace Armstrong as his agent and moved to Jimmy Sexton in the middle of the season. In the middle of the season, when his name is in all sorts of coaching rumors, he does the thing that says, I'm open for business, mainly LSU, when I hire Jimmy Sexton. It is disgusting how openly blatant this is in terms of negotiation with head coaches.
I do not think that Mike Tomlin was playing around and is trying to strong arm anyone. I think he was really annoyed and he was offended by the fact that they thought he would leave being a Steelers coach to go to college.
Mike Stoops is at FAU.
This is the first time I've ever heard a coach deny a rumor and actually believe him. Like, I believe Mike Tomlin. He's ticked off. He has no interest in moving to LA. He loves Pittsburgh. He has one of the jobs in the NFL with probably the most job security. Like, the Rooney family, they don't fire coaches. They just let you stick around forever. There's only been 3 coaches in history. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I do.
We did.
Very successful franchise.
Also, USC is a dumpster fire right now. Why would you leave the stability of an NFL organization like the Steelers to go to USC and have to repair everything and then also recruit?
All great points.
I believe him.
Here's another point. Next season's a lame duck year for Mike Tomlin. It's contract extension time for Mike Tomlin. So it's good to have his name out there.
I actually have found interesting that I do believe the college jobs are better than the pro jobs now, because the pro jobs can turn over very quickly. And if you land somewhere and have a decent stint You
Right.
could be Mike Gundy for the rest of your life. You
Of
can
course.
have
Nick Saban.
You can have well, Nick Saban's a different animal, but
Kirby's smart. You could be one of those guys.
Anywhere in college football, the job security is better. But I want to put to you what Michael Rosenberg writes, because yes, the firm and hard no was interesting, and you don't normally hear it that way, and we can quibble about whether this is posturing or not, but I tend to believe Tomlin as well. But I thought the point he made at the end was worth examining, where he says, anyone asking Sean Payton about that, anyone asking Andy Reid stuff about that. And Michael Rosenberg writes, think about the public conversation surrounding Jim Caldwell and Anthony Lynn, then look at their records. Caldwell went 62-50. Lynn was 33-32. Then think about how many times Kyle Shanahan, who is 31-39 in 4 years, has been called a genius. The point here is not to trash or overpraise any of the three, but in football, you are what your record says you are, unless you're a black head coach. Tomlin's right. We don't ask these questions of Andy Reid or Sean Payton. There's no reason to look at Tomlin and think he might coach college football next year. We should look at him and wonder why he doesn't have a coaching tree. Plenty of Reid and Payton assistants went on to become NFL head coaches. Tomlin has a higher winning percentage than both. Why aren't teams rating the Pittsburgh staff? Why isn't he seen as a great coach who develops other great coaches like Reid and Payton are?
All fair points, with the exception of they did, at the height of John Gruden, Tennessee, and people asked him about it, were asking John Gruden, would you ever go to Tennessee? And Mike Tomlin, he is 1,000% correct, where, hey, you're not asking the other top coaches in the NFL. You're not. You're not asking them if they're interested. I'm one of those guys. I should be a Steeler for life. He's right in saying that. Like, why would you leave that job to go to USC? But they have asked other coaches before.
They have asked other white head coaches in the NFL about jobs.
Yeah.
I think the coaching tree is certainly fascinating. He's considered part of Dungy's tree, no, but he hasn't created a tree of his own.
Right.
But plenty of sitting NFL head coaches and assistants, white, constantly get linked to college football jobs, even while they're successful in the NFL.
He does point out that those two, though, are not. We wouldn't ask either one of them, would we?
No.
Would we ask
No.
Andy Reid or Sean Payton?
No, but we might ask Pete Carroll if he'd be interested in going back to USC. I mean, we might.
Well, since you bring up Pete Carroll, I'd actually like to have the most interesting conversation around what I think is happening here as it relates to Mike Tomlin, which is, are we still doing this? As you see, Pete Carroll can't win with Geno Smith and won't win with Geno Smith. And he says, Pete Carroll says himself, I've been here a long time. I would have been here a lot less time if I didn't have Russell Wilson. So you think you get Mike Tomlin? You're making a splash?
Splash.
Like you're getting a name, you're hiring somebody, but do you actually think that the getting of one of these guys, have we not eliminated that, or we're still doing it? We're still doing it. There's still these guys who are going to come in, and I bring Tomlin down here to the Dolphins and it's getting fixed. He'll just come in here and fix it because he's Mike Tomlin?
I think there are certain guys who are really good at this, that really good at galvanizing a locker room.
So yes, you're buying on the idea.
I'm not saying there's many, Dan, but Sean Payton's doing it right now with Jameis Winston.
But you've seen, well,
I mean, Dan, they're 4-2.
But Stugotz, I mean, Jameis has been, and they
He
won.
lost Breeze. He got
13 They
Winston.
won 13-10. Stugotz. Jameis Winston has just been okay.
I'm
Like,
just saying, you're asking me a question. I feel like there's a handful of coaches that, yes, if they become your head coach, you have a pretty good chance of turning out to be a good organization. Yes.
Mike Tomlin in his career has proven to be a pretty good leader of men. There was all sorts of unsettled ground in that Pittsburgh locker room, and they got off to an 11-0 start. Like he's navigated some tough locker room
I'm
situations.
not saying he's
and
not
been
good at
pretty
his job.
successful.
I'm asking you how many of these guys still remain out there when you've seen the Dolphin organization swallow Parcells and Saban. Like,
Sure.
how many of them are still out
Right.
there? Because I'm not willing to extend that to hardly anybody anymore.
Pros, I agree with you. I think Mike Tomlin would be a really good college coach. I think he's impressive if he walks into a locker room. I think I'd want to play for him if I were an 18-year-old kid. So I think college is different. The Sean Payton, Andy Reid thing doesn't necessarily it doesn't make sense to me. There's certain guys that are just pro guys. Like Bobby Bowden was asked once if he wants to go to the NFL. There's certain people that are just married to the lifestyle of that job. I don't even have all the data to suggest what job is better, pro or college, because I don't know what pro coaches get paid. That information is not readily available. I know what Matt Campbell of Iowa State reportedly turned down to go to the NFL. And if those are numbers they're just tossing out, I can't even imagine what guys like Bill Belichick get paid. I know the lifestyle in college is hard because of the recruiting, but I don't know what the money is in the NFL.
I think the point that Rosenberg's column makes, though, is that there's 32 NFL head coaches. 5 of them are people of color. Mike Tomlin's one of them. He's long been established as an NFL head coach, and he is extremely successful. He's at the pinnacle of his career. Like, this is an ultimate achievement to be a black head coach in this league for so long, in a league that doesn't hire black people. Why would you take a step back and then go coach in college, which is, I know you said you can see an argument. College is a step back. There's 32 NFL head coaches. It's the pinnacle of a coach's career. You wouldn't leave that to go to college. So the implication that like maybe he would is a little disrespectful.
He's the 3rd longest tenured head coach right now, behind Belichick and Sean Payton. To what Jess is saying, there's only 32 of those jobs. It's not common for people to be leaving the NFL to go to college. They coach in college after they get fired from the NFL, but why would he go back and do that?
My answer to that,
And he was 12-4 last year also.
my answer to that would be, he doesn't have a quarterback. It's about to get bad
Right.
for Mike Tomlin and all his genius. Like, they don't have a replacement. My answer to that is Mike Tomlin right now could sign a 10-year deal at USC. Do you remember there was a time the UM was offering Dave Wanstead 10 years? Dave Wanstead, 10 years to not be the Dolphin coach. Mike, I'm just saying they're really good, close to professional jobs in college where you could set up the next half of your career and let Mike Tomlin have 3 seasons with Mason Rudolph as his quarterback and see if you think he can get all these same jobs again in 3 years.
No, that's totally fair. But if Mike Tomlin decided, hey, I no longer have a quarterback, kind of bored in Pittsburgh, want to leave
He
Pittsburgh.
doesn't have a quarterback.
All right, Dan, if he wants to stay in the NFL, he's earned it. He should be an NFL coach for life. He does not want to take a step back or a step down in his eyes. Whether you think it's a great job or not doesn't really matter. He's earned it. Teams would fire their head coach to get Mike Tomlin to be their head coach in the NFL. They would.
It's also completely insulting to suggest that he's only succeeded because of Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, but
Especially because he's a defensive-minded coach.
Pete Carroll just got done
Volunteers.
saying, why am I 2-5?
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's no longer here right now.
I was a little taken aback. Like, I don't understand the insult in being linked to one of the more prestigious college football jobs. He very clearly was like, this is a step down. But Nick Saban didn't think it was a step down. Bobby Petrino didn't think it's a step down. Some people are pro guys. Some people are college guys. Some people have them on level footing. Mike Tomlin is very clearly, as someone that's been in the NFL since the year 2000, not one of those guys. He thinks it's a clear down, and he thinks it's insulting.
But Nick Saban was a failure in the NFL, and he
Correct.
left with his tail between his legs.
He came from college, Mike. It's a bit different.
That's
totally
a perception.
different.
Nick Saban wasn't that bad in the NFL. He wasn't that bad that season. What plagued him is about to plague Mike Tomlin if they don't have a true succession plan in place for Ben Roethlisberger. He didn't have a quarterback.
But he came from college where he controls who the players are and realized pretty quickly, I have no control over who my quarterback is going to be. I'm going back there.
Also, maybe I'm naive, but if you think Mike Tomlin's the kind of coach who's going to leave that great job just because they don't have a franchise quarterback in a year or 2 years, like that would shock me.
No,
He is-
I'm not talking
No, I
about him
suggest
leaving.
money.
I'm not talking about him leaving by his own choice. I'm talking. We'll see how much the Rooneys are about stability and their coach when Mason Rudolph has them at 2-15, and they don't have a quarterback or a way out.
I
Why
think
do you
that
think
might be a
that's the plan,
GM
though?
problem then.
Well, specific to Pittsburgh, they have not shown any foresight when it comes to their quarterback situation. Ben Roethlisberger's been at the last vestiges of his career for several years, and the only plan they've had is Mason Rudolph.
3-3.
Dwayne Haskins. They have to get really lucky in a weaker quarterback class this year in the draft if this year's a plan, or make a move.
Which they can do.
Yeah, they can make a move.
They can. They can absolutely make a move. They
Aaron
can,
Rodgers likes him.
Rodgers
You guys
was
are always
singing
talking
his
about
praises.
Rodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the
Aaron
plan
Rodgers.
is Aaron Rodgers, go get him. I imagine Aaron Rodgers is going to have a lot of suitors. If Aaron Rodgers decides moving to Pittsburgh, an ambiguous region of the country that none of us can
Western
label,
PA.
with his starlet wife, go for it. But
I mean,
if, that,
he's lived
if
in
that's
Green
a
Bay,
plan,
Mike.
if
Yeah,
that's a
but Green
plan-
Bay is not like
I know,
a
but
destination.
well, he's trying to leave.
Right.
So now that he's getting married, I would say if that's a plan, go for it. But that's a go for broke type of plan.
I also want to make the point, like I know you've said this a lot on the show, that Ben Roethlisberger has been in decline for many, many years. I don't think that's necessarily true because 2018 was his statistical best season of his career.
Yeah.
And then he got injured and then he came back from the injury and he hasn't looked the same.
Fair enough.
This isn't like a long time coming. He's been in decline forever.
Road bend has been a thing, though, for a couple of years now.
Not
But
in
your guys'
Ohio.
solution is just, it's going to be hard, run away from the problem, and you think Mike Tomlin is going to do that?
Oh, it's not a solution, and it's not even something I'm advocating for. I'm just interested that it's not quite as clear-cut as people seem to think it is between pro and college and how good those jobs are. And I understand why he would get insulted by that, but I've long thought, man, being part of a regional community and being part of something that feels like college football and having the job security and no salary cap and the ability to go get a new quarterback all the time if my
Sure.
quarterback's not any good without the restrictions, I think those are exceptional jobs.
But the job security is the part that probably frustrates Mike Tomlin. Like, hey, why are you asking me about this? I'm one of the great coaches at the professional level. Why am I being asked these questions? And again, he's being asked because Carson Palmer said it on the Dan Patrick Show.
Exactly. He's a pro football coach. He's not
Yes.
a college coach.
And a
like
great
we
one.
shouldn't ignore the fact that the job he is denying is USC. This isn't a great job where you walk in on day one and things are set up for you to succeed. They've had some real struggles over the last few years, including in the wider athletic department with this Operation Varsity Blues things. There's all these lawsuits. There's recruiting violations. Like there's a ton going on there. It's not the Steelers, and it's not even a great college program where you can just walk in and recruit your guys out of Southern Cal, and all of a sudden you're great again. Like it's that's going to be a hard job for whoever takes it.
That's exactly right. Like if it was that easy to just replace the quarterback and be there forever, the job wouldn't be available because whoever was there before wouldn't have lost the job.
I wasn't even doing it as a USC job. I was actually thinking of it. Would he consider under any circumstances going to college, or would any of those people in his position consider it? Because he'd be the least likely to consider it, given that he's one of the few who does have something that resembles relationship job security with the people in charge and is also regarded, I think, by everyone listening here, yes, he's one of the best at this. But is it insulting to ask one of the best top 10 people in those jobs to consider a college job, a hypothetical one? The LSU one is a good college job.
Sure.
Do you want to go be Nick Saban? Do you want to go to the SEC?
I think Mike Tomlin likes being Mike Tomlin.
But don't make
that's
it
fair
Mike
enough.
Tomlin. Make it
Right.
any of them, though. Like
Right.
we don't have to. And I also want to just ask more generally of the audience and all of you, does Shailene Woodley classify as a starlet? You called her a starlet. I don't know if she is.
Actress. I don't know. I was just.
But
talking.
starlet is high up on the list, right?
She was a tentpole attraction for a big time franchise.
So she qualifies.
I'd rather get in the weeds in Tomlin than Shailene Woodley. Feel more in my depth.
It's interesting to see Tomlin insulted by it. And
That to me is a takeaway. I think he should say, I'm with him. That's a great job in Pittsburgh, and it's great job security. The notion that he got so insulted by that, I don't know if it has to do with race, tenure. I like dissecting that. And I just flatly don't know what is a better job. The University of Alabama or LSU or the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I'm just missing so much information, and very clearly I'm missing it because Mike Tomlin was insulted at the fact that USC, which I consider a tier below that, to be a huge insult to the man.
Dan, from a journalistic standpoint, if Carson Palmer said that about Belichick, a reporter would ask Belichick, correct? I mean, Tomlin's insulted.
I don't know. I don't know. Would you ask Belichick whether
If
I mean,
Carson
what do you
Palmer,
think
who went to USC, said it?
You tell me if you can imagine the press conference where someone's asking Belichick, hey, Bill, do you want the USC job?
Well, you would say it. Hey, Carson Palmer said recently.
You tell me whether you tell me whether you think.
I'd be so nervous asking that question.
But I mean, that's why it's ridiculous, because Mike Tomlin's won 2 AFC championships. He's played in the Super Bowl twice. He's never had a losing record, even in the years that Mason Rudolph had to come in and replace Ben Roethlisberger. Like, he is one of the best NFL coaches, not just currently, but in history. So asking him, are you going to take this college job? Are you interested in it? that's why he probably got mad because he's like, what the hell are you guys talking about? You would never ask Belichick this.
Are you of the belief, as a newbie around here in our Menchies, are you of the belief that I could take Mike Tomlin and put him in Detroit and make a difference? That I can take Mike Tomlin, put him in Miami or with the Jets and make a difference? Are you of the belief that that travels with Mike Tomlin? Because I'm you know where I stand on this, Stugotz, and even as I've seen the sport change in a way that I don't understand how some of these offensive coordinators are this good at what they do, I'm not scared of the Patriots anymore at all. And I won't be scared of Mac Jones 3 or 4 years from now either. I'm not going to be scared of Mac Jones.
Careful.
man.
Yep.
And it's off to a
regret
better
that.
start than Tom
game.
Brady was
Yep.
statistically. You want to say dink and dunk and all that, but Tom Brady was that early in
He
his
was.
career.
I mean, yes, and they won a Super Bowl, whatever it was, 1917, over the greatest show on turf during a playoff run where Tom Brady threw one touchdown pass, was a champion throwing one touchdown pass, an entire postseason run that I think had a first-round game in it.
He also got one ring for that.
I think there are organizations like the Lions, like you mentioned, that do and the Jets that have organizational dysfunction that even great coaches can't overcome. But I do think that if you dump Mike Tomlin there, he'd probably still do a pretty good job because he's become one of the most well-respected coaches in the league for a reason. Like he has a level of like cool calmness, stability, and football IQ that earned him the job for all of these years and is the reason that he's been so successful.
Have you seen Mac Jones the last 4 games? I mean, it's completion percentage is over 70%. The ratings over 100. Like
Good
he's
morning,
been
box
scores. Stu.
Well, no, before Standing Stu
I mean, you
was
know
a
that
lot
off the
fun.
top of your head. I mean,
Standing Stu was here a second ago. He spit at us 4-2 and 3-3. His analysis of Jameis Winston was 4-2.
I'm just saying, Sean Payton, you take Drew Brees away, right? Like, Dan, I'm with you. Like, hey, you have Drew Brees, you're going to be good. You take him away, he's still 4-2. Give him credit.
No, but it's a little absolute. These are only good jobs if you have a quarterback. And these coaches, I believe, are only top end good if they can make a good quarterback. So if you guys are saying careful, Mac Jones is going to be Tom Brady in 3 or 4 years because Belichick can teach him all that needs to be taught differently than anyone else can teach it so that Mac Jones can be better than Kyler Murray or Aaron Rodgers or whoever he's going to be better. I don't know about you guys. You guys think the Patriots are going to return from the dead because he couldn't do it with Cam Newton. He couldn't resuscitate Cam Newton. He was trying to do that. That didn't work.
If the quarterback's good, then yes. I'm not certain if the reason the quarterback's going to be good is going to be Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
The quarterback just might be good. They may have gotten lucky again.
Yeah, I don't know to answer your question. I'm going to extend Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt to give him a couple of years to develop a quarterback that he's handpicked.
But that's what Mike Tomlin wants.
yeah.
And you guys are saying he should go to USC.
No, I'm not saying no fallacy.
No one
one said.
straw
No
man.
one said that.
That is a straw
Absolutely
man.
not.
That's the way I heard it, Billy.
Can we get the
Yeah.
straw man graphic?
Never once.
Straw man.
Not once.
He doesn't have a quarterback. He should go to college.
I don't
Things
know
are going
which
to be
job is
tough for
better.
you.
Pick his
Oh,
own
college is a better
quarterback.
job than
Yeah.
the NFL. He hasn't done shit without Ben Roethlisberger.
These are not direct quotes. Outside of-
Paraphrasing.
Mike Tomlin's a jerk, and I hate Mike. I can't believe you said that. Like you're such a biased Browns
He
fan.
hates
It's
being up in the
disgusting.
Northeast.
I wanted Mike Tomlin to be hired by the
Dolphins.
Dolphins, quite famously. I was told by someone he was too hip hop. That's a real life story.
It is a real
That is a
story.
real story.
It's not
Oh, my
told by
God.
someone. It was the guy. It
Dude,
was
the guy that was heading up the
CEO.
search.
No, he was the CEO of the
Yeah.
Dolphins.
Yes.
Guy heading up the search was in the bullpen. I was an interning for this show and the Kevin Rodgers show. It was me and Brandon Guzio that was in the bullpen. It was a Jimmy Cephalo who was headed into the Dolphin Hour and Dolphins CEO Joe Bailey. And we were talking about the Dolphin search. Brandon Guzio was a big Dolphins fan at the time, so he was super into the coaching search. And we were going around on who we'd hire, and I'm like, well, I'd hire Mike Tomlin. This was when he was a coordinator, I think, in Minnesota. I would hire Mike Tomlin. I think he's an impressive coach. What he's done with that defense is good. Appears to be a good leader of men. What do I know? I'm 19. But Cephalo goes to Joe Bailey. You met with Tomlin, didn't you? What'd you think? Too hip hop. And that's a direct quote.
Yep.
This is why he's probably getting pissed when people are asking questions that they don't ask Andy Reid and Sean McVay. I mean, Jesus.
And this is why I'm pissed. We ended up with Cam Cameron.
I had to go in and produce that show afterwards. Piss all around.
One season of Cam Cameron. That was only one season, right? It was only.
I love that when Billy was fake newsing me, I got so defensive that I was like, I've been Mike Tomlin since day one.
You really have. You have, and then you threw out your Tomlin bona fides. You got.
I love Mike Tomlin. I think he's terrific.
I mean, Mike had it at 19. He said that Tomlin was a great leader of men.
I mean, obviously everyone wants a brilliant quarterback mind, but I think, especially as a Cleveland Browns fan, being a leader of men is something that is so far overlooked when you bring in a McAdoo just because he worked with the Aaron Rodgers and helped design a Packers offense, or Cam Cameron. It's like everybody's a professional football player. They're all the best in the world. Who's going to have the team play the hardest for them consistently? And Mike Tomlin has proven over his 20-year career that his players play hard for him. They don't give up. They've had plenty of excuses in Pittsburgh over the last few years to give up on him, and they don't. So I think he's a tremendous head coach.
Dominique used to talk about Dominique Foxworth, about coaches as CEOs, about leaders, about, like, listen, forget about the X's and O's. Hire a leader, hire a CEO, hire a person who can motivate your players, galvanize a locker room. Dan, I'm not certain I would want anyone else to be in charge of my organization than Mike Tomlin. Like, that's how good he is. I think he might be the best coach in the NFL when you consider everything, Dan. Leading, setting the right example, caring, working very hard, saying all the right things, doing all the right things, and meaning them.
So you'd take him over Belichick?
I think I would. Yeah. I would.
This is unbelievable.
What are
you
the
guys
standings
started
telling
with
you?
he should leave, and now he's the greatest coach of all time.
That's what I do.
Billy, you and I believe the Codys, at least Greg Cody, are our avid cruise ship aficionados. So when I say to you, when I inform you that Royal Caribbean is the Serenade of the Seas, is doing 274 nights at sea, 9 months straight at sea, after cruise ships took a real hit during the pandemic, I think, how we view all cruise ships. Is that appetizing? Do you think when people hear 9 months at sea, I think I read it's 150 stops. And the thing to me
You
that
see the world, Dan.
yeah, 150 stops allows you to see the world. Do you like the idea of 9 months at sea, or do you think you would go stir crazy on one of those petri dishes for viruses?
It's a good question. It's going to be all old people, we would assume, right? Like, no one's going to be plunging down $60,000 in their 20s to go on a 274-day cruise.
$60,000.
Yeah.
My God, that's like a semester at Harvard.
It's 9 months.
That's a lot of money.
I think if you break down the cost of living in certain places here in the United States, $60,000 might be what it costs. So I do think it'll be older people because they can take the time off. It might be older retired people, but
$219 a day. That is.
I think that
Eating
makes
the
sense for
same
some.
food for 9 months.
Well, they change the
Well,
menu.
and
now.
you're also
And
stopping.
You're
at certain
stopping. You're seeing the
ports.
world.
Wait,
Right.
how many
Wednesdays.
captain's nights are there?
It's very important.
I swear
It
to
is.
God, a baby's going to be born on this cruise.
Yeah, there's a shot.
Well, that can happen, sure.
Well,
You
if the
can,
median age is 75, probably not.
Right.
if you get on one of these ships and perhaps you don't know you're pregnant, you can have a baby somewhere in another land or on the ship because
Probably check
it's
first.
9
right?
months at sea.
I'm not crazy about cruises. The amount of time they go to port would matter to me because 9 months just on a boat, that sounds like torture. But if every other day I'm docking and I'm getting to see a new place, it actually sounds quite wonderful.
It's 150 stops, man. You're stopping pretty often.
Well, this is what I would say to you. I think that people who like cruise ships are generally either older or they like the comfort and the convenience of being able to see the world without having to take your bags to 150 hotel rooms where you're basically being Ubered or chauffeured around the world by Billy's beloved captain. The problem is that you have to be 9 months on one of these ships, and I imagine there would be a stir craziness involved with that, no matter how much you were getting off of it. But I also assume there are people on those ships in much worse quarters, probably staying on those ships, working on them. Maybe not that much time at once, because no matter how poorly those people are treated or how many hours they work, I don't think many of them work 9 straight months on a ship.
When you guys go on your run-of-the-mill cruises, you know, like a week or a 5-day cruise or something like that, do you get off at all the ports?
Yes.
I enjoy having the boat to myself and not getting off at some of the ports. I do. Been there, seen them, don't want to see them again, take the boat to myself.
I don't need to see Luxembourg today. I'm Stugotz. I'm just going to sit around and order room
I was talking about
service
Nassau.
eggs.
I'd rather have the slide to myself and ride it 50 times in a row.
Exactly. Yes.
They close a lot of this stuff though on the cruise during the day. Like,
I find ported cruise ships to be sad. Not just empty, but you can't do anything. So now you're stuck in that room. See, unless you've got
to
a
gamble.
if you've got a well, I don't think you can. Well, maybe you can during certain hours.
When they poured it
Maritime
at the
law.
Bahamas, you can gamble. I've done it.
you just end up watching cricket with the employees of the cruise ship. I'm serious. And then like, you got some action. Let's get in on this.
How do you imagine the grand majority of the audience feels about this? If I put it on the poll at Batard Show, 9-month cruise, yes or no? What's coming back? The majority of people, because I think people might be torn between that's disgusting and Mike's, well, if you let me see the entire world, 9 months away from everyone, and you guys are going to handle all the details. I just got to get my bags there and then I can rest. But that's 9 months of a terrible shower.
I just feel
And
like
a buffet.
I feel like 7 weeks in, I'm just gonna be like, okay, I kind of want my bed.
Well, how long are the ports? Like, can I spend a night
No, I
in
think
Luxembourg?
I don't think they're overnight. I think it's back
see,
to the ship every
There's
night.
probably overnighters.
Because
No,
it
if
always
it's-
feels like
Yeah.
it always feels like a rush to get back onto the boat, and that in itself, it does seem like a real
Very
mental
stressful.
health
Yeah.
problem.
If it's 245 days and it's 150 stops, you're not staying multiple nights in any city.
Yeah,
You got to get back on the road, go to
Going
the
back-
next city.
going back to my tight ass bathroom, and hopefully I get good neighbors and tight quarters.
Is it open bar though?
There's also like
It's a hell of a
portions
drink
it.
package.
No, drinks are included. Drinks are included in it. Yeah, you get free
I'm back.
drinks. They do your laundry for you. You could also do it in like different segmentations though, right? Like you could do like, here, let me do these 60 days for Western Europe, or you could do, hey, this is the Asia portion of it. I looked into it.
I do love the bread in that dining room. Those
feel
options.
like-
You get like 5 different options.
The divorce rate for couples getting off of this ship at the end of the 9 months has to be like skyrocket.
Yeah, I hope they film a reality show on this boat for a year.
Free ice cream.
Yeah.
Who would like absolutely crush on this cruise? I feel like if my dad, let's say my dad got divorced and was like, let me just hit the town.
Your father's liver would rot.
Right. But it's like an
There
older,
he
but I'm
has.
picturing an older crowd. Like, I don't know. Do singles do this or it's only couples? Like,
If you're going to do the single game on a cruise, you better scout that shit.
That's a different kind of cruise.
Yeah, I've seen bachelor parties go, hey, yeah, Cozumel, and then all of a sudden you're on there with a tour of like octogenarians.
That's what I say. I would
Yeah.
love the single guy on this tour. I'm going to kill it for 9 months off the grid, and then you're just with Ethel for
but
9
that's
months.
why it needs to be. That's why I have it being my dad as opposed to like someone our age. I have it like if you're gonna crush on this cruise, you need to be like a divorce, like someone divorced in their 60s.
You're gonna so many crown and anchor points on this one. I'm telling you, a weekend cruise, you barely get any. 9 months. Don't think that I wasn't thinking about an elevator pitch for Gary for this cruise.
Man,
we'd lose you for almost a year.
Yeah, but you get
I'll go on a 4-night cruise and my world shakes for like 2 weeks. Just imagine getting back on land after 9 months on a cruise.
Yeah, you get sea legs.
What are the things we're not considering here? What are the things
Mental health, I
that
think.
Royal Caribbean is not considering here? Because I think all of us had the same reaction when our entire opinion of the cruise industry was more enlightened, and we were all horrified by the idea of, wait a minute, I can get stuck at sea on one of those things during coronavirus and just be on a ship filled with sickness? Like, isn't that part of the factoring in on your equation here of whether you're going to get... I've been afraid to leave the country for for fear of being locked out, and I need to get back.
I would have marijuana concerns. Where do I get it? How much do I need to bring for 9 months? I've never had to think about that for 9 months.
I love how him
Will
getting
I be able
arrested.
to bring that much on to the ship
I love
with
him
me?
getting arrested as a dealer because he's got such a large quantity.
I run a racket
and he's
on
just,
that
you
ship.
don't understand. It's just for 9 months.
Well, then you have to figure like the extra really big empty bottles of shampoo that you put all of the alcohol that you sneak in on. They're gonna be suspicious when I get like a 50-gallon tub, and they're like, "Why do you need this?"
I just feel like so much can change in the world in 9 months. Like you could set sail and there's 9 Fast and Furious movies, and then you get back and there's 12 all of a sudden.
Billy, do you smuggle alcohol onto
No,
a cruise
come on,
ship
get out of here.
on giant shampoo bottles? I mean, it sounded you had a detailed.
I'd be poisoning myself because I wouldn't clean it out properly. It's risk reward, not worth it.
There's the pouches though. If you're doing it in the shampoo bottles, you're doing it wrong. There's like these like clear pouches with the little pin. Not that I've done it. I've heard people that have done it.
Yeah, or you could just keister it.
That's what I'm picturing Stugotz doing.
Good keister.
A quick a keister? I don't even know what keistering means, to be honest with you.
Think about it.
I so thought I could just get you to go along with that.
No. I was looking at all the stops that this cruise is making. I mean, it's very exciting, some of the places it's going.
That's what I'm saying. These ships
See
are
the Great
doing these
Wall.
things
I mean,
anyway, yeah.
I mean,
There's been world cruises before. This is just like the most extensive one.
I believe, but I'm not totally sure that what Mike Ryan was doing is having you smuggle bootleg alcohol in your ass.
I smoke weed out of my ass. Is that keistering?
You've put in your life, you've snuck weed in your ass.
Yeah, did I say smoke it?
Yeah, I would like to see that actually.
I would not.
I chose the wrong
I'm
word.
curious.
Let's watch
No,
it
I'm
right now.
curious.
Let's do it right
Heard of
now.
death.
do it.
Heard
Let's
of
do
death
it
punishment.
together. Let's
Because
do it.
I think I could do
Let's
it.
end this segment right now doing it. Okay, let's all sit around right now. Stugotz, please pull down your pants and smoke weed with your ass.
You
Let's-
inhale?
well,
It's called keistering.
Excellent.
I'd want to draw.
I misspoke.
I'd want to draw.
I've never
eyes.
smoked weed out of my ass.
I think I'd want to draw eyes on the top of your cheeks.
Would you really?
Yeah. Just
let's
to
do
see
that.
if they get red.
Let's do that now. Let's all sit here and watch.
I think I could make your ass look like Groucho Marx.
Go for it. Dan really wanted to watch me smoke weed out of my ass.
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's using keister anymore for.
No, it's the act of it. It's keistering.
It's it's a verb.
I'm not using like an old timey way to. Yeah, the keister is the verb.
Let's get witty on Urban Dictionary here for the definition of keistering.
It is odd if you like to smoke weed and you go to a state where it's legal now. You go to a concert, and normally you're so accustomed to hiding it. And security's like, hey, everything out of the pockets.
Well, you went to a.
And they're like, everything, including the weed, we're not going to arrest you. And it's like jarring to do it in front of.
Weird. Well, you went to Red Rocks for the Dead, and I even think that law enforcement wouldn't allow it. But I've heard the trouble with smoking weed in Colorado, a state I've never actually been to, by the way. So this is not me.
Mhm.
I've had friends like, you think it's a Wild West, so you can just smoke your weed anywhere.
You can't.
It's totally illegal to buy,
Yes.
but if you wanted to smoke it, you'd have to smoke it inside your home. Most tourists don't have homes. Most hotels have no smoking policies. So people they stock up on all this weed, and then they can't actually smoke it anywhere, and they have to throw it away because they're not going to keister that much weed.
Keister, smuggling drugs in your bum. The actual drugs are called keister eggs or stuffed dumplings.
Mm.
Keister eggs.
Would you ever smoke something that was in his ass? I
Oh.
wouldn't.
I mean,
What if it was close to my ass, but not actually?
No. Like, you mean like in the chode? No.
Yeah, in the chode area.
No,
Yeah.
No, I've never smuggled anything like that.
No.
Yeah, not even like one of
No.
those like mini Tito's bottles.
No.
Are you
I
being
want
specific
nothing.
to me or just anyone?
No, well, you're specifically, but
Right.
largely anybody, but you are specific.
Never gone to Halloween Horror Nights
You
and
haven't
been like, "Here."
cleaned under there in 6 years.
A common theme in a lot of spy movies is
Longer.
the swallowing of something. In the most recent James Bond, there is a USB drive that gets swallowed.
Spoiler alert.
I mean,
What?
come on, this isn't a spoiler.
It's not. It's,
A USB drive? It's a spy movie. It happens in like every spy movie. And I just have a question. They
Does
never
it?
do the follow-up scene where it's a guy's got to go dig into his
dig
shit.
through the shit.
in order to find a flash drive. There's no and it's like really, the flash drive just magically appears later in the film.
I'm
And
so
it's like,
mad.
well, how did
You're
this
right.
not get there?
They romanticize the swallowing of spy stuff, and you're like, who's digging through the shit? Is
Austin
it Q?
Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me. He digs through the shit to get the tracker.
Do you find yourself
Most realistic movie ever. Spy
longing
movie.
for that, Whittingham? Do you find yourself, show me all of the gritty underbelly of this filmmaking? How you glamorize your espionage with this seductive dropping of the hiding of the secret thing, but now you got to fish through your feces. Old James Bond has to sit there with his pants around his ankles, and he's got to turn around. And he's got to take a stick and run it through his
And
feces.
you know it's probably not the first shit.
No.
It's probably several shits later that you're not
You
getting.
don't know.
Yeah. So like
You
there's
don't know
false
when.
alarms.
You
You got to
don't know
go
when.
through it,
You-
and it's like
You're-
I don't know. I
you're
don't see it
digging
there.
through
But
your-
then you might have missed it.
You're
So
di-
your next 7 shits you have to dig through?
3 days of
What if you're constipated?
Whittingham is longing for 3 days of footage from a film where James Bond
Well,
nope, not this time.
Well, it's not all Aston Martins and dirty martinis for 007. It really isn't.
It's a dirty martini.
This is what
The
he
ass
calls
and
it.
Aston Martin.
Shaken, not stirred.
There are 2 bits of information the producers have relayed to me, and it is sparse, and I don't know which one they're laughing about right now in the back room. The 2 bits of information are, we have some very good James Franklin sound of the Penn State football coach, and the other bit of information is that Udonis Haslam is mad at me.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And I don't know which one they were laughing at. I don't know which one was
That's
triggering.
not a laughing matter.
No, I don't
mean-
think it's a laughing matter.
laughing at you, dude.
I don't
No.
think it's a laughing matter either.
You'll get Antoine on you.
Oh, man.
Well, wow, that is an inside joke, Roy.
But a funny one.
You don't want Antoine on you.
We all need an Antoine.
A 10-year-old marijuana arrest where Udonis Haslam had in his car just an Antoine who took the hit.
It's
on
his
Bagman.
weed.
Yeah.
Holding the bag.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Antoine
the bag.
Goldfeld. You have this James Franklin sound. Is that what you were laughing about, Mike?
Yeah,
Ryan?
I'm never laughing at Udonis Haslam. James Franklin and Penn State have a big game against Ohio State this weekend, but James Franklin's name is linked to all sorts of jobs. And James Franklin is inviting all this speculation by firing his agent and hiring Jimmy Sexton, basically telling the world he is open for business. You would question the team's focus. So you would ask him, are you focused for Ohio State, a big game for Penn State?
Obviously, we're trying to be focused on Illinois and talking about Illinois as much as we possibly can.
They're playing Ohio State.
And they just played Illinois. I mean,
It doesn't, the questionable focus doesn't stop there. He makes a mistake that you simply cannot make in the eyes of Ohio State. This.
Obviously, tremendous challenge going on the road to the big house.
That's where Michigan plays.
God.
Wow.
Famously.
oh, man.
What a disaster. What happened?
I think it's safe to question James Franklin's focus headed into
Yes.
this game against the
is.
Buckeyes.
We have an example of Tomlin. That's exactly how you answer that question. And then James Franklin. That's how you don't answer that question.
The duality of coach.
James Franklin, though, and this is one of the other reasons that I believe the college game is a very appetizing thing. You can get to the college game, and next thing you know, you're facing someone with James Franklin's focus as Ed Orgeron just sort of swerves all over campus, inviting lady friends over to the pool. That doesn't really happen when Jim Harbaugh is on the other sideline.
The other thing that can happen in college football is that one day you lose a 9 overtime game to Illinois. Even if you lose in the NFL, it's not in 9 overtimes to Illinois.
That's a weird rule. I think it's under player safety, which makes sense. Although I kind of feel like a 3-yard play at the goal line, a 2-point conversion might be the most dangerous.
That's right. Let's
of plays.
onside kick. Let's onside kick and make everyone collide into each other. That is the most dangerous play. goal line is the most dangerous place, is it not now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're doing them a favor by backing it up a little bit. But imagine in the NFL, they go to that rule, and it's just I got to take the offensive weapons of Tennessee for one play 9 straight times. Ow.
Listen, he's nervous. I mean, you don't want to face Ryan Day in the big house. Everyone knows that.
I think people complain about how PKs are the stupidest way to end soccer and a shootout in hockey is stupid. I think for college football, the stupidest way that would be the best way to end overtime games is to do a field goal kickoff. And you have to basically keep backing up like 10 yards till you're having your kickers kick like 70-yard bombs to win the game.
Oh, I trust college kickers more than anything. This would be great. No, thank you. I actually think the NFL has it kind of right. I like that idea. It doesn't necessarily only come down to a coin flip. You just keep them out of the end zone and you're alive.
I think they nailed it. You're right.
I think this is the best incarnation of it.
I thought the old college football way was the best way.
What was wrong with that?
Dangerous.
The thing that was wrong was that one game,
Football's
one time went to
dangerous.
7 overtimes, and it was players had 200 snaps a game or whatever it was. It was like everyone was dropping like flies in the Texas A&M LSU
it
game.
can be 2 overtimes ends in a tie.
But you don't want to add extra danger to something that's already dangerous.
You guys are saying that you like the NFL way of doing it because the NFL way hasn't produced a whole bunch of sloppy ties that are unsatisfying.
Well, it's not a flip of the
Draws
coin
are-
anymore either.
Draws are
you know?
exciting. Like,
Yeah.
I'm cool with draws in college football. Also, part of it, too, not just the player safety. You get these crazy inflated statistical lines. You gotta acknowledge history here. Roger Staubach can't compete with Patrick Mahomes playing a 7 overtime game. Come on now.
It forces you to make decisions too. You want to end it? Go for it on 4th down. Get a touchdown. End the game. I think the NFL, to Mike's point, has really gotten it right.
I think I like the other college football way better than this college football way, but I am admitting that this one is way safer than what could have amounted to 2 full games that players are playing.
If it doesn't go 9 overtimes of goal line stands.
But it never gets to before the rule change. Like it very rarely we were getting into like 4+ overtime. So they changed the rule because of like a few outliers, which I get because like it's obviously dangerous. They're not getting paid to do any of this. So now you're having them play like 2 full games for free.
Yeah.
That's a problem. However,
they're getting paid now. They're getting paid now. I'll allow it.
but they're not by the schools.
Everyone's
Plenty
getting
now.
paid.
We gave them NIL. They
Disclaimer.
can take an NFT contract and now go out there for 2 full games. It was once that game went to that new rule, which I've known about just because of gambling and overs. So I was well aware of this rule.
I was just going to ask you, the thing that I wanted to ask you is which is your favorite or the worst of the overtime betting scenarios? When you're rooting for overtime because you have to get to an over because you can't get to the over unless you get to the overtime. Basketball overtimes where sometimes there was a game the other day that came in under even though it went into overtime. So your least favorite and favorite overtime scenarios gambling are?
Again, I think the NFL has it right because I've been burned by this year. I had the Patriots on the side and the Cowboys went to overtime. The right bet there was the Patriots, no? But
It was
walk-off-
Patriots plus 4.5, and they
Right.
all game. It looked like the best Dallas would win by a field goal. You were going head to head with Stugotz, who loves favorites.
I do love favorites.
He's never met a favorite.
Stugotz-
I do
Yeah.
love
Stugotz
favorites.
loves
6-0.
favorites.
And
Jets.
I've never met a home dog yet. I don't like.
Stugotz bet Dallas in that game, giving 4.5. It goes to overtime tied. He's got no chance of winning it. I think that's the worst scenario of getting to overtime and you need the coin flip and you lose the coin flip.
The worst.
Well, it was a small sample. It was a small sample, but headed into that overtime, like what my dad was telling me was home field advantage hasn't really mattered all that much in the NFL this season. And I actually inflated what it would because now you have full stadiums coming off of last year where it didn't necessarily matter all that much. I thought it would matter the way that it always had. It's starting to right the ship a little bit, but that's why road favorite Stugotz was doing so well at the start of the season.
Can you guys explain to me? I saw, I don't know what's happened recently, that the Packers line with Devontae Adams moved initially 3 points when he went into the COVID protocol. And now You have multiple wide receivers are out. Aaron Rodgers' numbers are all very good when Davante Adams is out. Winning and statistically he's very good, but the line moved from 3 points to 6 points, which isn't something I've seen happen very often with one wide receiver. And it reminded me just how wrong I got it with Davante Adams, because I said flatly, and I may come to regret saying that Mac Jones is not someone I will fear 4 years from now. But that Davante Adams, I did not think was a number one receiver.
It's the most wrong I've ever been, too.
Yeah, he's really
but
good.
in my defense, when I had those takes, it's not like Davante Adams was any good back then. Davante Adams took like 2 full seasons to fully come online. He was a frustrating player that lost games for Green Bay.
Right.
He's a totally different player now. I wasn't wrong. I'm wrong now.
That line is -6.5 now. Aaron Rodgers is getting 6.5 points.
There's a lot more that goes into it.
It's a great game.
It's not just Davante Adams. I believe their defensive coordinator is in the COVID protocol as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short week too. You have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, but it's one of those games where I believe, like the all-time greats, when you're Arizona, you're trying to be great. You're Kyler Murray. You're trying to be Aaron Rodgers, where Aaron Rodgers reminds you, hey, not so fast. I'm still here. +6.5. Woof. I like a doggy this week.
So what is the classification of this game? Because that sounds suspiciously like a statement game. Is it a reminder game?
Every now and then LeBron would do this. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Just pick it up there.
No, I'm
Statement game. Every now and then LeBron would do this where there's a team, they're up and coming. They think, the player is going to be the next LeBron. They're going to be the next team. And LeBron reminds them, hey, not so fast. I'm still here. I haven't gone anywhere. And I believe that to be hotshot young coach in Kingsbury, hotshot young quarterback in Kyler Murray. Aaron Rodgers insulted that they're favored by 6.5 points. I'm Aaron Rodgers. What have they ever done? I think the Packers win outright. How about that?
Okay, I'm not so interested in what you think, waving sausage fingers around
6-0.
because you're coming off of a 6-0.
I like the conviction.
6-0 weekend. What I am interested in is, did you just officially move Aaron Rodgers into this class of cliched? This is one of your big hits here.
Yeah.
LeBron's reminder game.
Uh-huh.
I thought only LeBron was capable of a LeBron reminder game. Are you now allowing Aaron Rodgers into the class of your exclusive club of the LeBron reminder game? Because no one else has ever been in this club. You have not said this about anyone else.
I never said it about Brady because Brady is certainly in that club.
No, you've never said it about
well,
Brady.
then we're adding 2 because
It's
Tom
only been
Brady
the
is in the
LeBron-
club.
It's only been LeBron ever.
He's writing these down.
I am.
Tom
Yeah.
Brady was always be careful.
This is incredible that you have Aaron Rodgers having a reminder game while you've accused him of tanking.
Well, he won't tank this week. This week the game means too much. This is a reminder week.
I was looking too much into it.
Right.
That's my
This
bad.
is a reminder week of I'm still here. I'm still great. This is about Kyler Murray. This is not about Green Bay. This is not about where he wants to play next year. This is about reminding Kyler Murray, hey, you're good, but you're just a kid. Okay? You have no pelts on the wall. I have a
It's
single.
a Pelts on the wall game. Holy shit.
It's been a while since we've had one.
Holy shit,
Yes.
it's a Pelts on the wall game.
It's amazing.
Sound the alarms.
This is the first Pelts on the wall game I've
Sound
ever
the
heard
alarms.
of.
This is the first NFL game of the season that is a Pelts on the wall game. Holy shit. I can't believe
It's a big
it.
one.
I'd love Stugotz to now define a pelt. Rugged out.
It looks like a Super Bowl ring, Dan.
Rugged outdoorsman Stugotz. A pelt on the wall. What is this? Is it taxidermy? Like what? He's a big game hunter, and there are pelts on the wall. I'd love Stugotz, the outdoorsman, to explain to me what he just said.
It's a youngster. You know what?
No. I don't know. I want you to explain pelts on a wall. I want you to explain
Accomplishments that you hang on your wall. I mean,
what are pelts is what I'm asking you.
oh, that's a good question.
Well, it's Arizona, so I think they probably have some of those, like, dead longhorn skulls on the wall, too.
Right.
Could be a skull on the wall game.
Oh, it's a Pelts on the wall game. I
already
just don't know
told
what
you.
Pelts mean.
It took me a little bit to figure out what he was saying. I thought he was talking about Jeremy Marks Pelts for a second
Jesus
there.
Christ, Roy.
JMP.
JMP.
It's a deep pool. Pelts, for the most part, are skins on the wall.
There you go.
So he's conquered other teams.
Of
Yeah.
animals,
Yes.
animal skins, not
Yeah.
skulls, not
Yeah.
skulls on the wall. They're
No.
just the
But
fur.
there's like a Steelers in the Super Bowl with like James Starks is my
But-
running back
but
Pelt.
just to be clear, right? The pelts on the wall cliche game is coming from a time when people would go out and with their hands kill their food and then dry the wet fur on the wall.
This is a violent scenario that you've painted.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable Thursday night game.
I can't
This is like DiCaprio and The Revenant.
Yeah.
That's
Gonna climb
is
into a
what he's
dead horse.
saying.
He's
Yes.
got
like a
Pelts
little
on his
map.
wall.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's what it's like facing J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones.
like being chased around by a giant bear who's going to try and disembowel you and leave you dead in the winter cold.
And won't sack you.
Stugotz, I don't know how much you have kept up with the Chicago Blackhawks scandal because it is granular. The investigation that the NHL has done is pretty thorough. It's 140 witness interviews. You've got a lot of information over 5 months being gathered. And now everyone who was in power with the 2010 Chicago Blackhawks is out in the executive ranks. Nobody in the organization is still working there. And there is a victim left behind of sexual abuse and structural failure in the organization to protect somebody from a coach who was a predator. So Mark Lazarus has been on top of this story, senior writer for The Athletic. He covers the Blackhawks. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. For those who haven't been following the details on what happened here, can you sort of, before we get into how abhorrent it is and how something like this can possibly happen as a structural breach in leadership, can you just take people through a blow-by-blow account of some of what has happened here over the last 6 months or so in an investigation of something from 2010?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version. I mean, this is based on, there's 2 lawsuits facing the Blackhawks right now. One from a former Blackhawk from that 2010 team, a Black Ace, and one from a former student in Houghton, Michigan, who in 2013 was sexually assaulted by Brad Aldrich, who was the Blackhawks video coach in 2010. Aldrich, he pled guilty to that one, so that's a conviction. The 2010 Blackhawks one, this surfaced in about May, but the main story is, and this is based on the interviews done by Jenner and Block, the independent law firm who investigated this on the Blackhawks dime, was in May of 2010, Brad Aldrich, the video coach, sexually assaulted a Blackhawks player, or had a non-consensual sexual event, I think is how he phrased it. And this was brought to Blackhawks' attention on May 23rd, within an hour of them winning the Western Conference Final in San Jose. They swept the Sharks in Game 4. Within an hour, there was a meeting where this was brought to the attention of President John McDonough, General Manager Stan Bowman, Assistant General Manager Jay Blunk was in there, and Al McIsaac. Joel Quenneville, the head coach, was in there. That was a new revelation yesterday. Kevin Cheveldayoff, an assistant GM, who's now the general manager of the Winnipeg Jets, was in there. And basically, it was decided to sit on it for a few weeks because it was going to get in the way of them potentially winning the Stanley Cup. So 3 weeks after that, after the playoffs had ended, after the parade, after Brad Aldrich celebrated in the presence of John Doe, the victim of the Blackhawks, according to the investigation, he was quietly let go. And, he went on to have jobs in other places, including that volunteer assistant job at Houghton High School in Michigan, where he sexually assaulted a minor. And that is the crux of this, is the Blackhawks allowed that to happen by not reporting this to authorities properly and just quietly letting him go. And that's where we stand now.
And how much blame is there to go around here when you see a $2 million fine for the organization? You've got the shame of it as well. You've got damage being done here to somebody who may have trusted authority figures, the culture, the organization, leadership. So you put the blame where?
Well, there's plenty of blame to go around. Everyone in that room deserves some blame. I mean, these were grown men, these were adults, and all of them cowed. According to the report, John McDonough, who was the heavy-handed president of the team, that he was fired about a year and a half ago for other reasons, just internal politics, things like that. He ran the Blackhawks with an iron fist. So a lot of the blame is falling at his feet. But the fact remains that nobody stood up to him. Nobody said, no, we have to report this. This is unacceptable. The team as a whole, the entire corporate structure of the Blackhawks basically decided to put winning ahead of, basic human decency and protecting the well-being of one of their own players. So, 2010 to 2015, the Blackhawks won 3 Stanley Cups. This is the golden age of Blackhawks hockey, one of the original 6 franchises of the NHL, a storied franchise with, almost 100 years of history. This was the best run they've ever had, the golden age. And it's forever tarnished now because they put winning above protecting their own and protecting future people in other hockey organizations throughout the Midwest. It's, the farther you get, the deeper you wade into the granular details of this. And the Jenner and Block report is available online. I would caution people that there's a lot of, sensitive content in there that you might not want to read. But the angrier you get about how a professional sports team put, as Danny Wirtz, the new CEO of the team, who was not around in 2010s, put it, they put team performance above everything else.
Mark, I read the report last night, and it was truly one of the most sickening things that I've ever read. And I have been a Blackhawks fan my whole life, so it's even, I feel like, worse because, like you said, it was the golden age of hockey. And I'm wondering if the Wirtz family understands like the magnitude of this and how fans are going to really have to regain trust to even like this team anymore. Like it's really hard right now to even admit I'm a Blackhawks fan.
A lot of fans are going through that. Season tickets are down a little bit. The sellout streak ended. You can blame that on COVID. You can blame that on the fact that the team is 0-5-1, but they had sold out 535 consecutive games, and that's over as of their last game. But yeah, there are fans everywhere that are turning in season tickets. They're grappling with their fandom. How do you square your fandom? Something that brought you so much joy, has some of your best memories of your life are with your family, with your friends, with your parents, your kids, watching this team win. And now you have to square that with the fact that everyone who is running that team allowed this to happen. And we have to wonder about the players too. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, that whole 2010 team, they said Toews told me over the summer that he didn't know about it until the following fall. At training camp, when word started getting around, I've had other players say everybody knew. Patrick Kane said he didn't know about it. There's, as Reed Shar, the Jenner and Block investigator, put it, wildly varying accounts of a lot of this. So there's gonna be some questions here. But if you're a fan, you have to grapple with, and we see this in sports all the time, right? My wife's a Cubs fan, and she had trouble with the 2016 World Series because Aroldis Chapman was on the hill when it was won. That soured it for her. And now Blackhawks fans have to deal with that and figure out, if this team, and to their credit, they're doing the right thing. They fired everybody. Danny Wirtz has come in. He said all the right things. He apologized on behalf of the organization. He's instructed the lawyers to settle with the 2 lawsuits, even though he says they have a legal case. They're going to stop with the lawyering and statutes of limitations, all that. They're doing and saying all the right things, but they're doing and saying all the right things 11 years too late.
You mentioned earlier that no one stepped up and said something. In your mind, who should have stepped up and said something?
Everybody in that room. John McDonough was the president of the Blackhawks, and he ruled that franchise more than maybe any executive I've ever encountered. Like, he should have said something, but so should have Stan Bowman. So should have Kevin Cheveldayoff. So should have, every single person in that room. These were not children. And, Stan Bowman put out a statement. I was a first-year GM, and I trusted my supervisor. No, you don't get to pass the buck. Nobody in that room gets to pass the buck on this. You are all fully functioning grown adults in a room that heard a horrible thing and decided to sit on it and do nothing. And that's the legacy of that executive suite now.
You mentioned that Joel Quenneville, we learned this yesterday. He is at the front of, the hockey team here in South Florida. You said we learned that yesterday. What else did we learn yesterday with the NHL investigation that had not been known?
Well, the big ones were that Quenneville and, like I said, Kevin Cheveldayoff, the GM of the Winnipeg Jets, were in that room. We didn't know. We knew about that meeting. Paul Vincent had brought that forward, and we knew about that meeting, but we got the full details of it. And again, we have to clarify everything. The investigation said that there were wildly varying accounts, but this is the conclusion that they drew, is that these people were in that meeting. Quenneville and Cheveldayoff are both going to be meeting with Gary Bettman, the NHL commissioner, in the near future to discuss that. I don't know if there will be punishments for them. I don't know how the league is going to legislate this. Handing the Blackhawks a $2 million fine, that's a drop in the bucket to Rocky Wirtz, who's a multi-billionaire owner of the team. But the people that have been fighting, Stan Bowman and John McDonough and Al McIsaac, these guys have been with the Blackhawks for so long. They're gonna have to apply for reinstatement through Gary Bettman directly if they ever want to be in the NHL again. And I honestly don't know if any team would ever sign them again. And Stan Bowman's a 3-time Stanley Cup winning GM. He would, in theory, and his last name is Bowman. He would have a job for life in the NHL. But now I wonder if he'll ever work again.
What's going to happen though now that they're being called into Bettman, given that over the offseason, there were denials publicly that they knew anything. And now the investigation, it's not just that they did it, it's that it would appear that, is there another way to look at that other than to say the investigation has proved that they're not telling the truth?
It's hard to look at it any other way. You're right. And I don't know. The league has, Gary Bettman has dictatorial powers to do basically whatever he wants to anyone who works in the NHL. So he can suspend Joel Quenneville and Kevin Shea several days off. I don't think he can kick them out of the league. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a huge story. I mean, Joel Quenneville's the second winningest coach of all time. He's going to win his 1,000th game this year, which is a huge deal. Only Scotty Bowman's ever done that, Stan's dad. And, the Panthers are one of the great stories in the league this year. They're maybe the best team in the league. And, Florida, a market that's been starving for good hockey for so long, lying dormant, waiting to be resurrected, now has this hanging over their head. I mean, what does this mean for Joel Quenneville? What does this mean for the Panthers? The tentacles of this stretch across the entire NHL, and very few teams are going to be, untouched. The general manager of the Montreal Canadiens is Mark Bergevin. He was an assistant GM of the Blackhawks back then. He was not named in the report. It seems like his denials have some validity to them, but there's going to be questions now for everyone who is ever affiliated with that team, one of the great teams of the modern era.
What's going to happen to Quenneville? What should happen to Quenneville? Because you're saying the powers that Bettman has, but I don't seem to understand at all what might happen here.
I think a suspension of some sort would probably be fining him is not going to be sufficient to a lot of people. But at the same time, if you're the head coach of the team and you're in a room with a bunch of executives, what is your responsibility there? And again, this is the sliding scale that we're talking about with McDonough and Bowman and then McIsaac. And then what happens when you get down to Joel Quenneville? What is his responsibility there? There are a lot of disturbing things in the lawsuits about homophobic bullying to this player in years to come because everybody knew about it and people were saying horrible things to him on the ice, off the ice. The psychological damage that must have been done. And then there's also this minor victim in Michigan that basically would never have happened if the Blackhawks had reported Brad Aldrich to authorities. So there's certainly grounds to suspend Joel Quenneville. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think the Florida Panthers are going to fire him over this. I mean, this happened 11 years ago in another franchise. I don't know what you do. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out because Bettman can do pretty much whatever he wants. But Joel Quenneville is a really big name in this sport, and he's on the verge of a huge milestone. And he's the coach of a great team. And I don't know, does he get suspended? Does he get kicked out of the league? It's hard to envision some of those things happening, but it's all on the table right now.
So one of the things in the report about John Doe was the way that Aldrich allegedly threatened his future in hockey and basically, got him to trust him and just told him he wouldn't have a career unless he complied and all of these awful things. And like you mentioned, the bullying afterwards from players who maybe had heard about it or knew about it. I'm wondering how much of this inaction and Quenneville maybe not really realizing the magnitude or not saying anything at the time and the focus on the Blackhawks playoffs and the Stanley Cup, how much of this has to do with the culture in hockey? And is there a cultural change that needs to happen in these organizations around these allegations?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great question because hockey is still, hockey is probably it's weird because hockey is one of the more progressive sports in terms of the You Can Play project. Hockey is for everyone. You see guys wearing, pride tape on their sticks and they have all these, the Stanley Cup has been at gay pride parades, all these things, but it's also this dinosaur of a sport run by people that are, from a different era, dinosaurs that played in the 70s and 80s. And it's a backward sport and it's the whole culture, the whole point of hockey, right, is you subsume the individual for the sake of the team. You never say I, you say we. All those hacky cliches, they're true in hockey. And this is an example of that. Is you don't rate, you don't. The words they use is they didn't want to affect the team chemistry. That was one of the reasons those executives had for sitting on this information for a few weeks was they were about to go to the Stanley Cup final and they didn't want to affect team chemistry. That's the hockeyiest thing I've ever heard is that, protecting a player on your team could affect team chemistry. And it's true, people think that this is just a video coach. What could he have done? Video coaches hold tremendous power for younger players, like John Doe was. He was a black ace. He was playing for the Rockford Ice Hogs for most of that year. The video coach is the one who cuts all the clips to put in front of the coaching staff. He can really frame your career in a lot of ways. Look, this player is good. Look, this player is bad. The video coach has a lot of power. So, the John Doe had good reason to fear Brad Aldrich's power over his career. He was young. He was trying to break into the NHL. And here's a guy who holds his career in the palm of his hands telling, if you don't do this, I'm going to ruin you. And, it's not the hockey way to stand up and speak out. I'm hoping that changes. We're seeing some positive moves in But you go back to last year and George Floyd and the aftermath of that, hockey was terrible at it. All the other, the WNBA and the NBA and, a lot of these sports were leading the way, and hockey was just making it up as they went along, kind of, soft shoeing their way through it and trying to come up with, ways to look good, but not offend their largely white conservative fan base. And NHL is like golf. It's all white and it's all conservative. It's hockey is a long way to go in earning the credibility and the progressive thought that other sports have right now. And maybe this is a flashpoint for that. Like I mentioned, Danny Wirtz, he took over as CEO after John McDonough was fired. And he's the son of the owner of the team. So he's a Blackhawks legacy, but he's also new to this. He wasn't affiliated with the 20 things. He's a younger guy. He's a progressive, forward-thinking guy. And I think with him at the helm, there's hope. They're putting all these initiatives forward to kind of bring the Blackhawks into the light. And they're doing a land acknowledgement before games now. This is a team that has a cartoon Indian as its logo. We have to wonder how long that's going to last for. But there are reasons to believe the Blackhawks are headed in the right direction, and this was a big step in that process. But it doesn't change the fact that five months ago they were saying, "Oh, there's no credibility to these accusations at all." There's a long way to go.
What about the damage done, Mark? Because in these instances, we talk about blame and who should go, and so they clean house, and maybe it doesn't happen again next time. But can you humanize the damage done here? Can you humanize the victims?
Well, that's just it. I mean, we get fixated on the hockey of all this, but there was a child in Michigan who had his life altered forever because the Blackhawks didn't report this to authorities. There's a hockey player on the Blackhawks, a member of the Chicago Blackhawks, who had his life altered forever because of this, years of therapy and trying to work through this and repressed memories. And, I've had former Blackhawks players, I'm obviously not going to name names here, but say, they have children that have been sexually abused in other areas of life, and they can't, and the anger they feel towards a team that you once loved, that was their family. It's hard to describe. I mean, this is an unforgivable sin. You can do what you can to make sure it never happens again, but nothing washes this away. Nothing makes it right. The fact that they're going to settle these lawsuits doesn't make it okay. So there's a real human cost to this inaction by the Blackhawks, this hockey inertia, to just this drive to put winning above all else, that is going to be felt by these people forever. And Brad Aldrich, we've done a lot of reporting on this. Everywhere he went, there's a pattern. He grooms young players. He becomes a little too friendly with them, and then he goes down in this direction everywhere he's been. The Blackhawks could have prevented that by just saying, "Don't ever hire this guy." They never really did that.
We'll let you out on this note. For those listening, are there details that we have missed that you find not just from the investigation, but from all your reporting on this, that people ought to see so that they understand how something like this happens, the discomforts around the adults being able to talk about it? We've seen it happen at Penn State. We don't know whether the cultures are responsible for this or not, but what details are we missing that the audience needs to hear on what happened to these young men?
Well, I mean, you can read the 100 some odd pages of the Jenner and Block report if you want those details. It's disturbing. It's upsetting. But what it comes down to is you have to decide did the Blackhawks did Stan Bowman pay a fair price? He won. His name is on the Stanley Cup 3 times. Was that worth what he did? His name is on the Stanley Cup just above Brad Aldrich's forever. They're forever linked and forever tarnished together. And you have to decide, when future executives are in this situation, is the now worth the risk down the road? Because this never happens immediately, right? It took 11 years for this to happen. We can't overstate that. It took 11 years for justice of any sort to happen here. And I'd still wonder if in that position, hyper-competitive, very well-compensated executives make the same decision again or not. I'm sure this is not the last one of these stories we'll all be writing about, and that's really unfortunate.
Mark, thank you for sharing your information and for the work that you've done on this story.
Thank you.
And then whenever we go to greet them, just stick to that thing and see how many times they say back whatever that unique thing is.
Okay. So we want to do this for the remainder of this week, or do we want to, what do you want to do here? I'm going to go yo-yo.
Yo-yo.
So
when I walk by someone, I'm just going to be like, yo-yo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, can I get a what?
Ooh, all right. New game. Instead of for a week.
Can I get a what? Hold on. Let's write these down so we'll make sure. Okay.
I'm gonna be like, can I get a what? And you're gonna, I guarantee you, 80% of the time, be like, what?
All
I'm
right.
not going to respond. What?
You might.
No, but I don't think I will.
Well,
okay.
Maybe a what?
Mike,
What?
do you envision yourself when I walk past you and I say yo yo?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yo, can I get a what?
well,
Really? Really?
Yeah,
You're going to
that's
give me
that's how
my
it's gonna
yo
go.
yo and follow up
Flip
with
it
a
right
what
back
what?
with, can I get a what?
Holy shit.
Slam a llama ding dong.
Why
It's
don't
gonna
we-
be hard for me.
why don't we do this?
Okay.
And because a week's a long time. Why don't we do this? We have a big meeting today.
Right.
No one's aware of this, but we have a big meeting today.
Uh-huh.
Why don't we all have our unique salutations for the people who are visiting today, and then see how many of those
Wait.
get repeated back?
You have me walking past Skipper going, yo yo.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to ask him if I can get a what.
Yeah.
Do you have any other nominees here as the executives come in to do whatever it is that the executives are going to do around here?
I'll give him a sup.
Ooh.
Sup?
I don't think
Sup.
you're going to get a sub back.
Wait, so Jess is staking sup. Okay. Hold
Yes,
on.
I think. Is there an
All right, so
apostrophe
yo-yo,
before that? There
sup.
is an
Yo-yo
apostrophe
for me.
before the sup.
Can
What
I
up,
get-
bro?
I'm glad I locked in. Can I get a what? I
Yeah,
feel
I'm
like that'd be
jealous.
going
Yeah.
on
Things
for
are
a while.
going quick now.
Wait, Roy, what
no
was
one
yours?
is coming back at you with bro.
Try it, though.
You
Try
think
it,
they-
though.
Ooh, dangerous game.
Yeah. Try
Ding
it.
dong skillet. Yeah.
Walk by Skip today and just bro.
Give him a what's
Yeah.
cooking.
Oh, what's cooking? That's good.
What's cooking?
All right, we'll do that. What's cooking?
What's cooking?
Are you officially taking what's cooking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm starting
So
to have
many are off the
immediate
board.
regret over can I get a what?
Yeah.
I'm excited for sup.
Home skillet.
Wait, so Mike has Mike, what is yours again?
Can I get a what?
All right, Mike has a what? I have a
I
yo.
love that
Roy
he
has
keeps
a
asking you
what's
and then
cooking?
You have to keep
and
saying
Jess has
it.
a sup.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
We
she
need
has
one.
to-
We need one for Billy and Mike.
Yeah. Well, no, Mike has
I mean
one.
Billy and Dan. Excuse
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, what do you want?
Hey.
Nice.
No.
Hey.
Hey.
I think that you might get a
Yes.
hey. No, 3 is too far. What? 3
No,
is one
that's
hey
Fat
too
Albert.
far.
3 is Fat Albert.
Hey.
No,
Hey.
that's the way from What's Happening.
Yeah.
Fat
So-
Albert is hey.
Yeah.
Are you
Oh,
going
but
hey
I'm sorry.
or
I
hey
didn't set
hey?
my 3 consecutive.
I don't think we can
hays.
do 3 hays in.
I
in
think
one
two
in a
what's
row.
happening is hey.
Yeah, it's hey,
Okay,
hey.
So Dan has.
I have
hey,
one
hey,
for
hey.
Billy.
Okay.
Oh.
Hey.
Howdy ho.
I don't think I'm gonna be doing that.
You sing it like you're like at a sporting event, like the organ player.
Cab Calloway.
Mm.
Hmm.
Billy should be really long.
But the thing is I'm trying to get it back.
The Billy I know would
Right.
conceive this entire game and then go, I'm going to go high.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I'm kind of maybe just like a head nod. Do you think you get a head nod back?
Yeah, the old nod.
What about
yeah.
salutations?
A formal
That's
salutation.
Witty already does that.
He does. Yeah.
That's how Witty says good morning.
Can't help it.
Greetings.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
Sup is off the board.
Sup is gone.
Yeah.
Yo. Yeah.
What's happening?
I
What
think-
about howdy?
You know what? I could do howdy, I guess.
Howdy's
you got
good.
howdy.
Top of the
Howdy.
morning.
Billy is howdy.
Top of the morning.
But it's
even
gonna
though
be
we're
an
gonna see
afternoon
them in
thing,
the
yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah, it's gonna be afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening.
I did that
Top
at
of the
a,
morning.
I did that at a barbershop once in Spanish. They quickly corrected me and said it's not the morning. I said, oh, sorry.
You said top of the morning in Spanish?
Well, no, I just said buenos dias. And they're like, buenas tardes. I was like, oh, sorry.
Oh, wow.
Chris
Perdón.
Whittingham's over there.
Yeah.
I love Billy.
Actually, the
and
morning
I
ends
lo-
at noon.
I love the barbershop
Tell them to
taking
get over
his-
themselves.
I love the
any
barbershop
language.
taking his confidence as soon as he walks in. It's just like, here are my first words and a correction.
Well, I
Thank
also
you.
said it to the room, which was very out of character for me, but it's a common practice where you walk in and you say hello to the
Wait.
entire room. Yeah.
I cannot imagine you doing this. You walked into the
Well, I'll
barbershop
never do it again.
swaggering, Buenos dias.
Well, no. So, like,
Jesus.
I walked in.
How,
terrible
how are you
Spanish.
not better at that after 20 years in Miami? How is it?
Miami. I live in Orlando.
How is it possible?
O-Town.
So I walked in, and it was just like an awkward thing, right? And then it's always kind of like I'm just waiting to I don't want to be there, but I'm just waiting to see like who's available, and I'll just go and be out of there as quickly as possible because like that's just my experience with haircuts. I'm not a fan. So they're just looking at me. So I'm like, well, I better say something. So I'm like, I know that in the past, every time someone walks in, they say hello to the entire room and it goes well. So I, said, buenos dias. And it was like maybe like 1:15. It was like an hour after the DS was still applicable,
You strike me as someone, though, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know what your haircut habits are, but I imagine you to be a loyal customer, that you would be going to the same place for a long time. And so you're not often walking into a place that's new, that you actually know some of the people.
You're half right. I do go to the same place, but it's not like I go every 2 weeks, right? So they probably know me as like, that's the weird person that comes in here like every like month and a half to 6 months, depending on how groomed I am that year. And then they are like, that's the weirdo, like who doesn't want him and who's going to be available. And like how sometimes you look around, you're like, who's the first person available? Sometimes I feel like when I walk in, all of a sudden people just start sweeping and they become unavailable.
Right. Want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Same barber or?
No, that's the thing. That sometimes they just get the urge to sweep when I walk in. Yeah.
I have to go to the same barber. I have to.
Put it on the
For
poll,
that?
Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Put it on the poll. If the barbers start sweeping as soon as you come in every time, do the barbers not like you?
I don't know why. I don't say anything.
No, but this is what I love about you getting stripped down as soon as you walk in. I love that you open the door, you jangle.
I keep my clothes on.
It's got a bell jangling as you walk in my imagination, and the chairs are red and they're barber chairs from 1980 in a certain kind of South Florida. And as you walk in, the barbers start sweeping, and then you try to be friendly through whatever the awkwardness is with buenos dias, and they all look up from their brooms.
Yeah, they run for brooms
and correct you.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
They clip his confidence before his hair.
It's so wrong.
I saw this viral post, I think it was on TikTok the other day, where a person said they went to a hairdresser for the first time and they handed them a robe. And so she went in the bathroom and didn't realize the robe goes over her clothes. So she took off all her clothes and was naked underneath the hairdresser's robe.
Completely naked. Why would that be necessary?
Treating it like the doctor.
It's really, that's someone who's just doing what they're told. Not like that, really, not giving any thought. There are thought experiments done on this sort of stuff. Like people will follow. You might be able to trick 10 people into doing that before anybody does something different.
That's why I'm saying there's like a 60% chance I get a howdy back today.
Well, howdy seems safer than all the ones that we're doing.
I love
Bro's
that.
not getting any. What, bro?
What's
like,
cooking?
what was that? No, he did
What's
bro.
No, but he's got
what?
what's cooking. Yeah, Mike's got what.
No, but
you have hey.
But Roy had something on the front end of bro.
What up, bro? Of course, this does not apply to women that may show up here.
Well, what are you going with?
That's not equality,
What's
right?
cooking? No, it's
I
not.
feel like in Miami, bro is
Sis, I
gender
guess.
neutral. Miami, bro is totally gender neutral. You got the bro sandwiches here. It starts with bro, ends with bro.
I hung out with Lewis and Tony for a little bit yesterday after work. I've never heard so many bros in my life.
Oh,
Just
they
back and
love
forth.
yeah.
They just say bro to each other, and it's a whole conversation just with the word bro.
Right, they don't say anything else. bro.
But you'll learn that bro means different things. It's not like just one use for the word.
It's like buffalo, buffalo, but it's just bro.
Bro.
That's a whole sentence.
Bro.
Do you say buffalo a lot? I don't know.
Fire, bro.
No, buffalo, there's like a buffalo is a complete sentence because buffalo is a noun, adjective, verb, and you can make a sentence of just the word buffalo.
So is bro. Bro is all of those things in
You can.
in
Bro
Kendall.
can be a verb. I'm broing out.
Did
Buffalo
anyone-
bro.
Did anyone picture Skipper saying what's cooking and like immediately smile? Because I did.
What's cooking, bro?
What's cooking?
What?
Which one is he most likely to say?
Howdy.
Howdy.
I mean, howdy's
Yeah,
safe.
howdy.
Billy got in
Yeah.
here, lobbed the
I got
grenade in
lucky.
here.
In
and
fact, I
then-
think Skipper greets you by saying howdy. Like he does already, I would imagine.
So should I tip my cap also?
Yeah,
to make
tip of the
it
cap with a
more
howdy.
difficult?
Yeah.
Or a curtsy?
a tip of the cap to you would be a good formal introduction. If you want to make it awkward, howdy is you getting off easy.
Yeah.
Howdy,
You guys gave me howdy. I was up
You-
for suggestions.
All right,
I don't
then-
think Skipper's ever
All right, we
worn a
can
hat.
change
Do you?
it.
Do the Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Like that bow.
Oh, I thought you meant like the
yeah.
DX.
No.
Like
not
the Duke?
water bottles. No, just like the very fancy bow.
Yeah, when he was what the Duke? He was the Duke of something, right?
Yeah, the way that a villain would in like a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Stugotz, did you see the ESPN.com headlines? Because it was one after another. We haven't talked about the World Series here at all, but it was Rob Manfred sitting out the chop in Atlanta. It was Roger Goodell saying the Washington football team investigation, that the report will not be released, that we're not going to see any of what it is that is being investigated in Washington. You've got Cal McNair. Why is it always you, Cal? Cal McNair, son of Bob McNair, apologizing for using the China virus. His father, a few years ago, said was owning the team and said you can't let the inmates run the prison when referring to the employees. And it was just one after another. No matter how much people want to get away from some of this stuff and retreat to sports. Sports is going to have some of it. The commissioners are not getting any better at addressing it. Like, Stugotz, I'm not kidding you. 30 years ago, outside Atlanta, Minnesota World Series, talking to Native Americans who were protesting about this kind of stuff, the chop and the name. Manfred still got no better an answer. His quotes were embarrassing. He's like, I need it. It's important. We've got 30 markets, is what he said. Like, he just didn't have anything.
Right.
And here's Roger Goodell about a Washington investigation that had somehow ensnared John Gruden and $10 million in fines in Washington. And Daniel Snyder is off to the side. His wife is kind of running the team, but he's not running the team.
There's a lot of information here missing. And when the NFL does an investigation, we have a lot more information. And there was a really good question being asked of Roger Goodell at this press conference. And Roger Goodell's answer was disappointing, as it all too often is.
Based on the fact that you guys produced, 250 pages on Tom Brady, 150 pages on Richie Incognito, and 100 pages on Ray Rice, why is it that there isn't a written report on what happened with the Washington football team and the investigation you guys did into that?
As you know, there was a summary of the findings. We had an independent counsel look at that. They worked on it almost a year. I think interviewed roughly 150 people, and I think it's close to 6 million documents that they worked through. But one of the important things by getting a professional that has worked in this space was making sure that you had people who were willing to come forward, most of which wanted to do so with security and privacy and anonymity, and it would be difficult for us to do that. And that not only affects the investigation that you're going through, but it affects future investigations and the credibility of that. So when you make a promise to protect anonymity, you need to stand by that. We're very conscious of making sure that we're protecting those that came forward. They were incredibly brave, incredibly open, and we respect the pain that they probably went through all over again.
Once you've decided to not be transparent with this stuff, that's the best answer from among a lot of bad answers, to go and hide behind the women again.
Yes.
To hide behind the women when you're calling in a league that calls for accountability at all turns and tends to punish its players and shame its players, or coaches and employees, Stugotz, because Deflategate was Belichick and Brady. They'll do it to the employees. It becomes far less comfortable when it's the owners and you realize that Goodell works for Snyder, and so the punishments have to be cosmetic.
But applauding people who stepped up and were honest, and I think he called them brave. No, bravery is saying it and then allowing the NFL to release, hey, this is what this person said.
No, because
you're off there. If they ask for anonymity, I do think that that's something that you have to respect.
No. I'm not saying you shouldn't respect it. I'm saying is there really bravery in stepping up and saying something to an investigator that you know will never get out to the public?
Well, you don't know that last part. That last part seems to be the question here. But there is plenty of bravery in recalling some of the trauma you experience in a hostile work environment. It's also that second part that you said is important, because that was a good answer under the conditions. However, it might have been a dishonest answer from Roger Goodell, because Lisa Banks, who tweeted, "I represent 40 former employees of the Washington football team who participated in this investigation." Goodell's statement is false. If that's true, then you're protecting Dan Snyder. over the victims.
My point is that once you've decided, and they've decided, to not show anyone anything, you have to now choose when that question gets asked, what are you going to say?
Mm-hmm.
And what he chose to say is it was important to us to protect the privacy of the people who are coming forth with the allegations. And what I'm telling you is that's the best cosmetic answer he can come up with from among all bad choices. Once you've made the decision, we're not going to be transparent about this, and show you again what's happening here is employees they will shame. Even if, Stugotz, we can agree, and we've talked about some of this before, what happened to the Patriots, going after the Patriots as cheaters, you might think is not good for the brand. But a lot of attention, a lot of talk about your league, soap opera, all that stuff is fine when you're shaming the people who don't actually have the power. And that includes Belichick. So they've got power. They just don't have the kind of power to manipulate the press conference and the investigation the way they can on Goodell.
You can protect anonymity. That's a hard word. Anonymity.
You want to keep trying?
You can protect.
No, hold on. Go back and forth. Go back and forth with Stugotz on that word.
Stugotz.
Anonymity. You can protect the anonymity.
No.
Let's try it again.
You're getting there.
Anonymity.
Anonymity.
No. Oh, dear God.
No.
Anonymity. You can protect the anonymity of the women who came forward and still be transparent. That's like a logical fallacy, saying you can't do both at the same time. Like we just saw this with the Blackhawks investigation yesterday. They used John Doe and pseudonyms for people who didn't want their names out there.
It wouldn't be very hard to redact some names when you're a multi-billion-dollar organization that does a pretty good job of concealing things when you want them concealed, but it does them no good. My argument would be on Deflategate and Belichick and Brady, Stugotz. My argument would be that that wasn't actually bad for business. It was bad for the Patriots, but it wasn't bad for the business of the NFL. Deflategate, Ted Wells, spend millions of dollars, stay in the news stream, create a team that's more hated, more loved, controversial, polarizing champion, interesting champion. It's not actually bad for the league in empirical ways that cost you dollars, but go ahead and make it something scandalous that makes FedEx do more than make Dan Snyder take that name off the team, because everyone starts pulling out. Once you saw what happened to Gruden, you saw how he lost. All of a sudden, the sponsors, everyone vanishes. And when you're that close to the money's going to get protected by an investigative arm that is paid by the money.
But it's absurd that we know more about PSI and how to handle a football than we do about what goes into a hostile workplace. We know that it's a hostile workplace. We don't know what the NFL defines as a hostile workplace from this. It's a clown show.
But not as serious as Dan pointed out, even though you're going after, a cathedral, one of your best players in Tom Brady there, but it wasn't bad for business. This is a totally different story.
I disagree.
Oh, no,
it
Mike,
was certainly bad for business from ESPN's standpoint. ESPN is hated in New England. The NFL management, Roger Goodell, is hated in New England. I don't know how that actually manifests in terms of dollars, but it certainly hurts in terms of perception.
Right.
Like, these are brands that were pretty immaculate in that region, and now they're not.
Not perception that costs you dollars, though, which is the perception they care about, which is why the NFL does, after Kaepernick, one day to the other says, hey, we got it wrong on Kaepernick, never mind about all that. Perception, optics are the only thing that matter here. Because the reality of it is, not perception, the reality of it is this is a giant business protected by all of the things that protect corporate interests.
Mike, those were conversations people wanted to have. It might have not been good for, Belichick and ESPN in certain places, but that was an easy conversation, deflating footballs that people were willing and wanting to have.
If they care about optics, why are the optics of this so bad?
Oh, because the optics that would be revealed with transparency are deeply, deeply worse.
Much worse?
This is the best of their options.
If taking inventory?
I keep saying
but then that's a cover-up.
The important part of the phrase here is if you're insistent on nobody ever gets to see this. Yes, the starting thing is a cover-up. That's what it is.
You don't want people to see it.
They're actively covering something up.
Look, man, if you were actually trying to punish something here, you didn't take Daniel Snyder's team. You moved him off to the side and fined him $10 million, and he's still around everything that you're doing. What did you do? You did optics. That all they care about is what gets us the best look. And in this circumstance, the worst look is us getting to see the inner workings of Snyder's organization. There's nothing worse than that. There's nothing that can happen. You check with your PR crisis team. You check with all of the people who do market research on this stuff and let you handle scandal and crisis. And there will be nothing worse than us seeing whatever it is that their investigation actually turned up.
Yeah, I think the optics that they're okay with is that we don't really have any say in if there's bad workplaces in the NFL. We're not going to be held accountable to that. So if this happens again, maybe people won't come forward. Like, that's the message that they're sending, right? If you're a woman or anyone working in any of these clubs right now and you have a similar story to these women, you're making that decision. Should I come forward about this or nothing will happen? So I won't.
I want to be clear, Stugotz, on something that you were doing there, because I don't know the nature of what the accusations are because it's not transparent. You don't think that there is bravery in whistleblowing?
We know that.
No.
We know that some topless photos of cheerleaders were circulated. We know that from the John Gruden story. We don't. But where is it? Where is that? I mean, there is bravery in someone that had a topless photo being circulated, talking to someone about that invasive trauma.
There is bravery in stepping up and saying something. If I was one of the victims, I probably would want this to come out because I want it to get fixed. I want people to know what I'd be willing to waive that, is what I'm trying to say.
But Stugotz, one of the
no, because I want the football team exposed. I want Daniel Snyder exposed.
Two different things.
But if you're just a witness to it and you weren't one of the victims, but you witnessed some of it.
No, because you get death threats. Like, your life's ruined. Like, this is what the victims who Jenny Vrentas has been reporting on have said about the Deshaun Watson accusations. Like, there are small business owners and their small businesses have been severely impacted. Like, their livelihoods have been impacted. They feel like they're being threatened, like there's a security threat because people are so rabid and angry about the things that they've said.
I have been floored of the last couple of months of interviews that we've done about whether it's USA Gymnastics or whatever else it is, that when women come forward on this stuff, the systems push back in a way that make them victims yet again, that make them, and so the deterrents are so strong and so ever present and so structurally what the organization is doing, that there is difficulty in telling the truth to investigators about a place that you might yourself love because of fandom or thought it was a dream job or work for people who control your careers after that. And I just can't believe that we're going to quietly not see any of this, that they're going to get away with it.
I also can't believe it. I gotta think that there's some investigators that are going to be poking around on this investigation even more. Like, we already saw it. It happened with the Wall Street Journal. Stuff already leaked out. Is that the end of it? Is Daniel Snyder going to presumably get away with this?
Am I the only one fascinated by the fact that the world's second richest man might want the Washington football team and has a journalistic arm, one of the few in America with the resources?
It's fascinating.
To actually put this out there, unless you want to join the boys club where they don't want it out there.
But you're kind of like alleging that Bezos has a say in what the Washington Post sports editors are like assigning and investigating. And I know some people that work there, and I don't think that's the case.
No,
if Bezos calls and tells you to do something, there's a good chance your
journalistic integrity and independence are completely out the window.
This is the Washington Post.
This is what she is saying.
Journalistic integrity matters there.
What she is saying is entirely accurate. There is a separation in the best newsrooms. There are fewer and fewer of them now, between commerce and content. The publisher is supposed to stay out of that stuff, but I have no earthly idea what Bezos thinks about journalism, and I have no earthly idea what it means to have that kind of power and money and want a football team.
But I think the reporters themselves have integrity. Like, I don't know any of, like, a lot. I don't know them all personally. I'm not vouching for every single reporter there, but I am
getting
saying,
to
like,
the bottom of this is not
like,
But Jessica, you're saying something here. Hey, investigate that more. is a perfectly
I'm sure they
valid
probably
thing
already
for
are.
the Washington
Sure, it's
Post
gonna
to be
take
doing.
time. It's
Right,
gonna
so
take time
Bezos
for
wouldn't
that
be
stuff.
telling them to do something
It's a-
they're not already doing
It's
on
a
their
fun
own.
hypothetical.
Right.
I know nothing about Jeff Bezos. Outside of he wants to reverse the aging process and go to space, and he's super rich, and he just had a divorce. I don't know. I know where Elon Musk stands on the media. I don't know where Jeff Bezos stands.
You can
on
get
any
his
of
thing in
this.
2 days too,
Yeah.
except emails apparently.
As things ever so slowly try and sort of get back to some semblance of normal, we are trying to plan a bigger Moss Miami event for next year that we are excited to tell you about. But we are now popping up with tickets at mosslebatard.com for something we're going to do next week, a quick and dirty Miami style Blackbird Ordinary, the place that we did the first Moss. Juju Gotti will be performing. If you want to spend some time with some people on the show and hang out with us in one of these settings that won't be, we don't want it to be a zoo, and we're not doing something that is pandemic crazy, but we are having a smaller party that's going to pop up here very soon in a week, and you could go to Moss Le Batard for more details. There were a couple of things that happened today, Stugotz, that I wanted to get to that we did not in sports. One of them is the news on Deshaun Watson here, where Goodell is speaking on this and taking you through some of his thinking process, and we'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to know whether Billy was sitting out the World Series last night. He hates both of these teams. Atlanta's a rival. Houston's a cheater. Atlanta wins game one. Atlanta's been quite the surprise mowing through this postseason.
I think best team since the All-Star break, Atlanta, in baseball.
They have been fun. Billy hates them. And last night, their pitcher, Morton, throws 16 pitches on a broken leg.
Yeah. It's a shame no one was watching it, though, right? I was talking to someone whose name I won't mention about the World Series beforehand. Sometimes we do YouTube watch-alongs of this, but I won't tell you who it was. And I was saying, who are you rooting for here? And I kind of got permission to not be rooting for anyone, which is fine. So I'm not rooting for anyone. But I do think it would be funny if the Braves won without Ronald Acuna Jr.
You needed permission? I mean,
Well, I didn't need it, but it was kind of like, am I being difficult about this? Am I being a baby? And I was like, again, I'm not going to speak for anyone, but it seems like a general consensus of the few people that I've polled. I'd say less than 5 people. No one really seems to have much of a rooting interest in this World
But
Series.
does not rooting mean the same to you as not watching? Are you not watching either?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be watching without rooting interest. What? I'm not a journalist. I don't give a shit about integrity. I want someone to win. I want someone to lose. And unfortunately, I want both teams to lose. And there's no ties in baseball. This isn't soccer, so someone has to win.
I mean, I have one rooting interest, and that's Dusty Baker. I would like him to get one. Just one. Just win one.
Yeah.
And he's not one of the cheaters, so you get.
He seems nice. He seems like a good guy. I'm not rooting against Dusty, but Dusty's, with people that I'm rooting against.
was it the smallest audience? Excuse me, smallest audience ever for Game 1 of the World Series? I believe it was.
In my house, it was.
Smallest ever. It can't be the smallest ever, can it?
I mean, I believe it was. I'm trying to find the report here. Last year was the smallest ever, and I believe this year eclipsed that. Or what's smaller?
Guessing. You're just guessing because you Googled the ratings and you have 2020 up there.
I had to recover. Yeah,
So, that was a nice pivot.
That was a good recovery,
That's
though, right?
A solid assumption.
Thank you.
Your throat too.
It happens.
I don't
Thank
think
you.
that data is readily available.
Let's see if I could find it.
It's a little early to find it. It doesn't. It usually doesn't come out very quickly.
Free tacos.
Somebody stole a base?
Yeah, the Albies, I believe, stole a base. Free tacos for everybody.
This World Series could be happening on Mars. I found out it was happening on Twitter. I'm like, oh, cool. Back into sex education on Netflix.
You're that uninterested?
Dude, don't even. It's done. Ship sailed.
Baseball is done?
Yeah, I'm not. For me, there's just.
Tell Manfred?
Nothing. Speaking of Rob Manfred, I was made aware of some quotes that he had regarding the Atlanta Braves and their controversial chop.
This is a crazy quote. Let me just read this. We don't market our game on a nationwide basis. Ours is an everyday game. You've got to sell tickets every single day to the fans in that market. And there are all sorts of differences between the regions in terms of how the teams are marketed. What does that mean?
that the
chop away.
The
Keep chopping.
The chop
Chuck
is
Pagano's happy.
here to stay in Atlanta, where he did take out an all-star game over possible racist backlash.
All right, so he's good with moving the team away from black people from Atlanta up to Cobb County.
That I don't know how many people know that, but yes, what has happened is the Braves have been taken away from black people geographically in a way that makes people in Atlanta, black people in Atlanta, pretty damn upset.
And he's good with all these white people doing these Native American chopping motions. He's good with that.
Yes.
They weren't good with voting rights being removed from minorities there. They moved the MLB All-Star game, and then the actual big show ends up in Atlanta.
It's funny. It is.
No
It
one's
is
watching
funny.
though, so it's
No one's
Right.
watching.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Lowest ratings ever.
You know, I saw during the NLCS, I saw them turn the lights out at the ballpark at Truist Park, so these people can hold up their cellular phone flashlights and just do the chop. Like they're embracing. The team is embracing
Well,
that.
this is
It's
the
not
Manfred
the only
quote.
place that does that,
It's the
though.
Manfred quote, though. Manfred saying, "Our regional fan base, man, Atlanta's rollicking. That's a baseball town. Like that looks like damn fun at those games, and they're not going to upset those people." But
Can we ease up on the baseball town? You become a baseball town when your team makes it to the World Series. Go to a game in July in Atlanta.
Okay,
There's
okay,
4,000
but
I've seen
people
Miami
there.
become a
Wait,
hockey town.
wait.
Right.
Most cities are just
It's
a
not a
rough run
baseball
town.
6 minutes.
I want to hear about
Stugotz,
it.
I've watched the Marlins play the Braves. They were doing the cell phone thing with a full stadium months ago. Before
Right.
they were like 5 games out. No, they've been doing it all season. It's not just because it's during the World Series.
But Atlanta isn't the only team that does this. The Kansas City Chiefs do this. Florida State Seminoles obviously have that. The Florida State Seminoles would argue that they have like the blessing of the Seminole tribe, which I do think is important context to all of this. But
Well, Atlanta claims the same thing, and the reporting has been done, and the organization that they wave around is an organization that benefits from the affiliation through business. And look, you're not going to get 100% agreement on this. What I'm telling you, though, is it must be lonely when 30 years ago, I'm not making it up, it was one of the first things I did as a traveling reporter. I'm outside a ballpark with a group of Native Americans protesting the chop and the chant, where it became popular when Atlanta started mattering at baseball because Smoltz and Glavine and Maddox were there. It was 30 years ago, and 30 years later, you've got Rob Manfred with how he looks and how he sounds and with his business interests lording over the proceedings, surrounded by people doing that, having a good time and telling you, regional game over here, I need these tickets. I mean, at least he was honest. It's sort of a bullshit answer, but he's
An honest
he's
one,
not saying.
I
I mean,
think I'm pivoting. Fine answer. Honesty. Finally,
somewhere in the
better
realm
than
of
what Goodell
honesty.
gave me.
The thing that he said that I was just sort of baffled reading the quotes, like, what does this have anything to do? Because he's not venturing anywhere near where the controversy would be. All he's saying is what's very important to understand is we have 30 markets.
He took a page out of the WWE's book. Those are quotes that come out of them trying to rationalize why they take Saudi Arabian money. We have to respect other people's cultures. Yeah, you do. The Native Americans. No, Atlanteans.
Manfred is thrilled.
The white Atlanteans, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're Atlantans, I believe. Are they?
Atlantans.
They're
AT-aliens.
AT-aliens, yes, exactly. The white AT-aliens.
Yep.
Yes.
Can I get a what?
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 Hey.